Hey, look at that.
Are we up?
Yeah, we're up.
All right.
You're darn
Is the
right.
description correct?
I don't know. It just says mornings with Brian Haldane, 8/9/21.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I have like a longer description too.
That's cool. How can I get back onto Facebook to share this biatch?
Mornings are for coffee and contemplation. News and newsmakers. Coffee and contemplation. Traffic and weather.
I've been sitting here for 2.5 hours and I still don't know why.
Good morning.
Share, bitches.
Start your day with Baton Rouge's hub for information and opinion.
Yeah, well, this is like your opinion.
Here is Brian Haldane.
606, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Good morning, everybody. Brian here with you. Taylor Sharp producing. We call it Mornings with Brian Haldane. We are off and running for another week. And not just any other week. It's back to school time, baby. Back to the routines. Back to the extracurriculars. Back to the studying. Back to all of it starting right about now. Some folks started late last week. Some folks start next week. But for the most part, most schools, as of right now. Colleges got another week or two before you're back in. But off and running with the routine. Oh, God, I tell you. As the summer makes its way through every single year, I start to miss that routine more and more. Just that whole, all right, let's get back to the grind. Let's get back to knowing where we're going to be every day. As parents, right? Knowing where we're going to be every day. And that's where we're at for this morning. So good luck, kiddos. If you're getting ready for school, if your parents are forcing you to listen to this show, good luck. Let's get back after it. It's time. And also be careful as well, you're going to have to wear masks, and COVID's not over with, and I'm trying to get you fresh COVID numbers, and my computer won't refresh at all, but we'll get to that throughout the show. Hey, speaking of what we're getting to throughout the show, going to be a lot of COVID talk this morning. Governor John Bel Edwards held a press conference on Friday. We'll have audio for you throughout. It's not looking good. Although the governor was fussing at us a lot on Friday. And if you've been following these press conferences, you know they take a number of different tacks. Some days he's fussing. Some days he's got good news, but has to pull up Dr. Joseph Cantor, to drop more bad news on top of us. And other days, well, if there's no reason to fuss, there's no reason to have a press conference. Friday was one of the days he was fussing at us. And I really don't understand why. The governor implemented a mask mandate on Monday. And on Friday told us that the numbers were getting worse. Well, of course they were. Because there's been a 2-week lag in numbers from the beginning of this thing. This is one of the things about having a pandemic last 18 months. We learn things. One of the things about doing this over and over and over again every single day, we tend to pick up on trends. We pick up on how it works. And that's one of the things. One of the many things that we've learned along the way is if you implement a mask mandate on Monday, you're not going to have good news on a Friday. Next Friday, maybe. Like starting this Friday, we might start to see a little bit of turn. But no, there was no reason to expect that hospitalizations would go down last week, that the percent of positivity would go down last week. There was no reason to expect that if you implement the mask mandate on Monday, that COVID would disappear by Tuesday. That's just silly thinking. So we got pounded for an hour and 20 minutes worth of a press conference on Friday afternoon. And like I said, we'll have audio throughout the show this morning. Also coming up on the show today, we will hear from Our Lady of the Lake, Medical Monday. Let's talk vaccines and pregnancy. In our Medical Monday segment, let's talk. Hang on. Let's talk with Katie Taylor about whether or not pregnant women should be vaccinated, what the possible fallout could be, what the possible side effects could be, or are there any? Medical Monday presented by Our Lady of the Lake coming up at 7:15 this morning. Stephen Waggis back from LABI is going to hop on board at 7:35. No shortage of topics to talk about with Stephen. We got a lot of ground to cover there. Infrastructure bill up in D.C., the reimplementation of the mask mandate. Where are we with all of that? And, oh, by the way, getting geared up for the fall back home, we're starting to see some more cancellations. So we might talk a little tourism as well. Did I skip past that? Jazz Fest was postponed. One of the many things to drop over the weekend. Jazz Fest is now being pushed back to April again. Taylor knows why. You know why, right, Taylor?
Yeah, it's Lizzo's fault.
From the day they announced Lizzo would be part of Jazz Fest,
It all went downhill.
We have not had a Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
Wait, that's just, there's been nothing but pandemic ever since she's been in the news. Everything, all of this. COVID-19, every variant. It's the Lizzo variant.
Like, I hate calling people out, but I mean, come on.
No,
Let's stop making this a conspiracy and just call it like it is.
It is what it is. There are times where there are conspiracies, and there are times when there are things that are true. Jazz Fest among them, being postponed. They bring out the Rolling Stones. And then Lizzo. And then canceled. That's at our 7 o'clock hour. 8 o'clock hour, Amelia Kent from the Louisiana Beef Industry Council is going to hop on board. Can't wait for that as well, because we're not done with grilling season just yet. We're going to talk with the Beef Industry Council about, so they're a partner with us for Foodie Friday, right? Beef Industry Council presents Foodie Friday every Friday, but there's been a lot going on in their industry we need to get caught up on. That's at 8:35. Like I said, we'll have a ton of audio from Governor John Bell Edwards as well, but first, we're due up for our first break. We're going to talk sports on the back end of this break. LSU's practices are off and running. Max Johnson is your starting quarterback, but he doesn't want to treat it that way. We'll talk about it next on Talk 107.3.
Right at 606. Right at 606.
I know it's hard to see a way out. You need to know exactly what your current income. That means post-pandemic income. So if your income is down, now is the perfect time to solve your tax problem.
Hey! All right. Looks like we're off and running. Morning, Eric. Morning, Galen. Morning, Scott. Morning, Byron. What's happening, y'all? Eric says we get the cuss now. I mean, y'all got the cuss before. No F-bombs, please. There's children watching.
Not child appropriate or something.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that, for sure.
Well, no, I had to mark it.
Galen says nearly forgot about the move to YouTube. Yep, same here. Nearly. I can't wait, though. It's going to grow into something much, much bigger. It's going to be a better show over there. Not immediately, but long term. Morning, Scott McKnight. Scott, when you coming back in, bro? We need to chat. Byron says, is this where I go to renew my car warranty? Interestingly enough, Byron, we've been trying to contact you about your car's extended warranty.
Yeah, just like mornings, and then you'll see like August like 21st over. It's gonna show me.
Do what?
It's gonna show me. Okay, Friday. Consider the fact I did not know what I was doing. A few minor things. Okay. To go down.
Did he get on you? Guys, it's going to be okay. No, today's going to be awesome.
Let your community know you're open, how you're helping to keep them safe, and how your business is operating.
You got 16, 17, and 18? Awesome.
The LRN codes, that's that same, so the same place where we play the news on them. You have parent director, news call. But you have the traffic, yeah.
See an accident? Report it at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter.
This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 new select BF Goodrich or
Eric says, so what are the rules for YouTube jail? I don't know. Is there a YouTube jail? I don't even know.
I don't think so.
I mean, I would assume all the
I've
rules.
seen some of the stuff posted on YouTube. I don't think there's a.
Exactly.
And then you like a Magnum PI mustache.
Okay, first of all, Magnum PI is the 80s. This is
It was before my time.
it's called Papa Was a Rolling Stone is the name of the song. 617 Talk 1073 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. The eyes glanced up at WBRZ on the monitor here in the studio, and I'm seeing the covering the story that Jazz Fest is canceled once again. I don't know why the story says postponed. If you're postponing a 2021 event until 2022 and it's an annual event, isn't that the same thing as canceled? Unless you plan on doing back-to-back Jazz Fests
Well,
next year.
they called the Olympics Tokyo 2020. I mean, that's all I saw everywhere.
Right. That's every 4 years, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to get in 2 Jazz Fests in a row. Can't do it. I mean, that'd be an entire month of Jazz Fest. That'd be fun. Anyway, yeah, Jazz Fest. Nixed. All right, LSU is hard at work right now, getting ready for football season, which they're not expecting interruptions to this football season, or at least that's been the plan thus far. Quarterback Max Johnson says he's not changing his mindset just because he's been named the starter due to an arm injury to Miles Brennan. Coach Ed Ogeron disappointed Brennan's unable to compete. Johnson says he was looking forward to the competition as well.
Yeah, we all felt bad for Miles, and it stunk for the whole team. He's a leader on our team. We were I was just looking forward to competing with him, and we push each other. And I'm excited to have him back, and he's going to help us throughout the season.
Yeah, I didn't know where I was at on that. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody get hurt, but when it comes to having a definite starter heading into the season versus 2 guys sharing reps, you kind of want to have one guy at the helm, right? I mean, Coach Ogeron had said he wasn't going to name a starter until the week before the UCLA game. That's not a whole lot of time for one guy to get into a rhythm when 2 guys have been sharing it. So Ogeron says he wants LSU's offense similar to the record-breaking one they had in 2019. Johnson says offensive coordinator Jake Peets will call some plays to match his athleticism.
I mean, we're going to move the pocket when needed to, such as like waggles and boots and stuff. But I really don't think it's changed that much. We're going to go a lot of play action. We're going to center a few times a game. But I think it's actually kind of similar. I think it's just the way we're calling it this year is going to be a little bit different.
Love a good waggle. Got to appreciate a good waggle. Defensive line should be a strength as well because several starters are back and there's a lot of depth. After recording 5.5 sacks last season, defensive end Andre Anthony, entering his 4th season, says the D-line as a group has grown up.
To know each other's strength and each other's weaknesses, how to build those weaknesses up and, even work on those strengths. We know each other like the back of our hand, we plan for each other. The bond is the way we hang around all the time. So the bond is, is way more up there because, you want to play for your brother.
Here comes Fox Business. I wasn't looking. I was a little bit short. Or long, I should say. Tell you what, man. Running a bunch of waggles. You know what that means, right?
What's that?
Tight end running the drag, baby.
Yeah. Well, see. I like the naked.
Naked boot.
I like the naked.
Not a fan of the naked boot. I like the waggle. There's protection there.
I like Johnson.
Although
I like Johnson with the naked waggle.
the naked Johnson,
Yeah.
the naked Johnson waggling all over the place.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Gotta. Stupid.
So what do you want to? Oh, 625. You have the storm bin. Is there any cuts for that?
Nope. It's just me yapping.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's kind of weird. It plays for a minute and a half. There's nothing to be easy.
Morning, Clinton. This YouTube ain't too bad. No, it's not. It's so far so good. Can they cancel the murders? Eric, can they cancel the murders also? What here? You mean down in New Orleans? I don't know.
Wait, no, you're grabbing everything. It was like 16, a little after 16.
1073.
That's fine, just mark it there. And then, like, it's basically straight up 20. What is that after 20?
This is the Fox Business
So go
Report.
back and mark it out.
The fast spreading. Make sure.
Thank you, brother. All the time. So the line is, is way more up there because you want to play for your brother.
Here comes Fox Business.
Right there, so mark it
This
at,
is the Fox Business Report.
at 01. There you go, add it to the list. That'll just be
Excuse me. Dadgum.
how we're on signatures. So sure. Yeah, she did. I said I had that's not so. My girlfriend was doing this too. Well, she's trying to schedule it. She can't get it until the 20th.
Really?
She was gonna get it in Walgreens.
Uh-huh.
Called to schedule it. Booked to the 20th. Yeah, just call back on the phone.
That's 11 days from now. That's unacceptable.
I was like, what was she? Well, because like for her work, they were like requiring like certain things, and like she's still working from home, but she's like,
Right.
if we have something that works 11 days,
Yeah. Would you get Pfizer or Moderna? Yeah. I was 100% cool. Like didn't even have a sore arm. That's Jay Ducote was like that. Jay ended up sitting out of work for 3 days because of it. If I recall.
I was sitting there and I was like, man, thank God Michael Jordan didn't actually have the flu during his flu game. Right. I think he just ate fucking bad pizza.
Food poisoning. Deliberate food poisoning.
Flu game makes him sound tough.
I don't know, man. Like, when your opponent tries to kill you, does that make you sound tougher or not?
It does, but I think flu game. It sounds better. It just sounds better.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Nobody's trying to kill LeBron before the finals, I'll tell you that. Or Eastern Conference. No, it was Utah. 625 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We're going to be COVID heavy this morning. Hey, just fair warning. That's just going to be the way that it is for a while. I mean, as long as numbers are where numbers are, as long as you have a week where every day a new record is set with hospitalizations, it's going to lead the news cycle, to be sure. So that's coming up in our next segment and the segment after that. Hey, want to before we close the book on what we talked about in our sports break, how about a shout out to Greg Dykman, former LSU Tiger, making his major league debut over the weekend. Dykman got the call by the Cubs. He played on Sunday, went 1 for 4, drove in an RBI. Did not really matter because the Cubs lost that game 9-3. They lost the day before that as well. A little crosstown battle with the White Sox. But shout out Greg Dykman. Kind of cool to turn on the TV and see a big LSU sign draped over the outfield fence in Wrigley. Kind of nice. Oh, also the Olympics wrapped up over the weekend with closing ceremonies and whatnot. U.S. pulling out the overall medal count and the gold medal count. 3 big gold medals on the final day gives the U.S. the overall medal count 113-88, beating China. Gold medals 39-38. U.S. also wins for silver medals with 41 as the most in the Olympics, and then 33 bronze as the most as well. So job well done in weird circumstances, to say the least. We saw how many athletes had to come home because of COVID and or other things. We saw how many athletes did not get to participate because of COVID and or other things, and just a different Olympics altogether. So good job by the U.S. for bringing home as much as they did. All right. As COVID heavy as we've been, it is still nonetheless a hurricane season. It's felt like a slow hurricane season, even though we are still on pace to have an above average hurricane season. That being said, there are 2 systems right now that are worth looking at. Neither one of them is a named storm yet. One of them has a 50% chance of becoming a named storm in the next couple days. The other still at a 20% chance. They're both southeast of the Leeward Islands. Is that the Leeward Islands? Yes. And they both look like, if you could put a path on them, they would both be headed towards, say, the Dominican Republic and then onto Cuba and then possibly onto the Gulf of Mexico. I tell you this because this is about the time where we're going to start to see, remember last year where we had that stretch where it was one after another, after another, after another, just pumping in off from the coast of Africa, shooting straight across the Atlantic towards us? But it's also good to remember that last year was such an abnormality. 30 named storms last year. This year, if one of these 2 storms becomes the next named storm, it's going to be Fred. Like, we're still very, very early on in the process if you're only hitting Fred in the middle of August. Fred. But as it stands right now, you've got one system that is reading from the National Hurricane Center. If I can pull this back up. It's a low-pressure system located about 380 miles east-southeast of the Leeward Islands, producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for some development over the next few days. A tropical depression could form while the low moves west-northwestward at about 15 miles an hour. This disturbance is forecast to reach portions of the Lesser Antilles by late tonight, then move towards the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico on Tuesday, near Hispaniola around the middle of this week. Tropical storm watches and warnings could be required with shorter than normal lead times for portions of the Leeward Islands. It's like I said, it's very, very early on in the process, very, very early on as to whether or not this thing is going to make its way towards us. But as it stands right now, its chances of forming into an actual named storm over the next 48 hours is 50%. Over the next 5 days, that number bumps up to 60%. And like I said, there is one other system out there right now. Neither one of them garnering a whole lot of attention, but we will keep our eye on it just a little bit as, well, we kind of have to. I mean, it's the middle of the season, right? We got news coming your way in just a little bit. On the back half of news, let's talk vaccine hesitancy. Before we get you to news, though, I want to put a poll out there, and you could sound off on our YouTube page. The show is now being broadcast on YouTube. Yes, we moved over from Facebook to YouTube. You can check us out there. Want to get some feedback from you. Do you want to hear from Ben Crump on this show? National Civil Rights Attorney Ben Crump. He's going to be in town in the very near future. National Civil Rights Attorney Benjamin Crump and Ronald Haley Jr. have been retained to represent Corey Miller. If that name rings a bell, he's also known as C. Murder. Miller is currently incarcerated at Elaine Hunt Correctional Center. The Department of Corrections and the warden of Elaine Hunt are not enforcing mask mandates or requiring correctional officers to get vaccinated, despite the fact that people who are incarcerated continue to endure some of the worst conditions during the COVID pandemic due to the lack of social distancing practices, not getting access to proper hygiene, and not receiving adequate medical care. You want to hear from Ben Crump about how rough C Murders got it? I don't know. Toy in with this one. Let me know on the YouTube page. That could be an interesting interview. It's so terrible in our prisons, man. It's pretty terrible for the victims, too. But, that's neither here nor there. Let's talk vaccine hesitancy right after news on Talk 107.3. There's no way I'm not booking this interview. Cool. Eric says the Cubs are pretty much a AAA team right now. They are exactly a AAA team right now.
Oh my God, let me guess. That stupid Fox Business fired off in the background. Jesus Christ.
We'll put it on the external. Okay. Yeah, that was the Cubs have wholesaled the whole thing, man. They're done with the year, so Dykeman's gonna get a good look. He's gonna get a lot more at bats. If he doesn't make it in Chicago, he will get picked up somewhere else to be sure.
I'm going to need you to post those because right after the show, I am running upstairs to the video board.
Wait, why are you running upstairs to the video
So
board?
I can actually learn how to do most of it.
Oh, are you back on it today?
Today and Friday.
Today and Friday? Have you been given a time frame for this show?
Just say whenever I'm ready.
End up having you hand off to Chuck P. I mean, yeah, like no, in the by 8:30 or whatever.
Oh, him.
Yeah.
My shift, when I'm filling in for Paul, will be 10 to 6.
Right.
But after that,
Right.
Your hair is so cute. Who cuts it? Oh, thanks. I got a guy for you. Here's his
Oh, wait, that's the last medal count. I can close out this window on the Olympics. Poor Palermo.
deliver it to Falah. He will put it
Clinton says, your buddy HD told me to give you hell about the coffee mug. Yeah, well, it's right over there. I'm not... it's yours. Come and get it. I mean, you know, you want to hit me up on Friday night to see if we can go out Saturday? Come on, bro. Toting kids all over the place. You know how that is. So proud of my daughter for this summer. That's the oldest one. She wrapped up her summer running over the weekend. They went to Tunica Hills. She ain't never run hills before. Oh, the back to school thing's over with, right?
I'm assuming. Yeah, BRPT.
Yeah. But she had a party with all the other like runners from the summer, and I'm like, you're going to a freaking high school party. She's like, our coach is going to be there. I'm like, I don't care. You're going to be at the same party with like older kids, like juniors and seniors and shit. Like, I'm not ready for this. I don't care if you're ready for it. I'm not.
Never ran hills, but I hear it's ups and downs.
Oh, God, get out. Go produce video.
I'll probably get it right now. That did not wake up this morning covered up.
Oh, listen to this. Clinton says the Cubs are basically a minor league team, and then tells Eric, my Red Sox aren't much better. Bro, I don't want to hear from either of y'all. The Phillies have rattled off 8 straight. The last 3 of those 8 were against my Mets. You know where the Mets are right now? 2.5 back. They're in 3rd in the NL East. I knew the dream would be over before too long. I knew I got all the way through July, and I should have been happy with that. But no, like an idiot. I just get sucked in like a moth to the flame. It's over. Once a decade, I get a glimpse of what the playoffs might look like. No! Sorry. No, not sorry. .638 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Next hour, Medical Monday, and Stephen Waggis back from LABI going to hop on board. Going to talk to you about vaccine hesitancy in just a little bit. In fact, you heard one of the stories in our news there at the bottom of the hour. We'll elaborate on that a little more. Right now, though, got to ask you how you're feeling this morning. Aches, pains, nagging injuries, that sort of thing? Might I suggest the folks over at Baton Rouge Physical Therapy? Why would I suggest Baton Rouge Physical Therapy? Because they've been doing it the longest. They've been around for 58 years. They basically introduced physical therapy to Baton Rouge. And I'm not just talking about recovering from a major injury like a car accident or some kind of weekend warrior sporting thing. Talking about those everyday pains, those nagging pains, those been hunched over a computer all day long, so why do I have this crick in my neck type pain? Been sitting wrong at my desk. Why do you get pain from sitting wrong at your desk? Ugh. But there's something tweaked in me? Yeah, all these things. You sit down with them, you talk it out, you tell them with the root of the problem, and they go to work. They go to work for you. 6 locations throughout the greater Baton Rouge area. You can give them a call at 917-9185, 917-9185, but I'd start with the website, brptlake.com, brptlake.com. Get back to being your best you with Baton Rouge Physical Therapy Lake. All right. You heard the story in news at the bottom of the hour, unless you're joining us on YouTube. And if you are, welcome. We're on YouTube now. We've moved over from Facebook. Some people who have had COVID already are reluctant to be vaccinated, believing their antibodies will protect them. But Ochsner Health Director of Infection Control and Prevention, Dr. Catherine Baumgarten, says their antibodies might not be enough for the growing variants.
That vaccine does give a broader range of immunity than perhaps native infection does. That's one of the reasons we're still recommending the vaccine despite any prior history of COVID.
This is one of the things I'm getting asked about by a lot of people in my email is that, what if you have natural immunity? And the answer I keep getting in short order is natural immunity can protect you from the variant that you got, not necessarily the next variant out there. Now, researchers say while previous infections generally do leave survivors protected against serious reinfection, blood tests have indicated protection drops against worrisome variants like Delta and now Lambda is going to be on the scene next. Ochsner CEO Warner Thomas. Ochsner CEO Warner Thomas says he's even had the discussion with previously infected employees.
If you had COVID last year, you didn't have the COVID Delta variant, so you don't have immunity to that variant. So you need to be getting vaccinated.
But there's still an unanswered question. And I get where he's at, right? The mRNA is synthetic, so it would be more adaptable than the actual natural antibodies that you would have. I mean, I'm not a virologist by any stretch of the imagination, but that sentence makes sense to me. You've got something that's the mRNA would be a little more generic, therefore more adaptable, versus something that's hyper-specific, like which variant of COVID did you have from the beginning all the way through Delta. But still, one of the questions that I'm not seeing answered, and this seems like it would be an easy question to answer, of those hospitalized with COVID, we're asking them, are you vaccinated or not? But where is the column on the dashboard that shows me all the different metrics? Those who are hospitalized, how many of them this is their first time getting COVID versus second versus third? I mean, we're asking about the vaccine because it puts in very stark contrast. Those who are vaccinated are much less likely to be hospitalized. But I'm curious to know how many people are being hospitalized. Because just contracting it, we've already learned. I'm vaccinated, I have to wear a mask. Why? I could still get it, I could still spread it. Okay. You're just not going to spread it as bad, or you're not going to have it as bad if you've been vaccinated. But are you contracting it as bad if you've got natural immunity as well, or natural antibodies built up in you? A recent Gallup survey indicated a previous infection, one of the main reasons COVID survivors won't get vaccinated. And I get that. I get that. We learn that every single flu season. We know that when you build up natural immunity, you're cool. But when this thing shifts and pivots and changes and goes from Delta to Lambda, will that natural immunity hold up then? Thomas says a CDC study offers real-world evidence disputing the belief that previous infection offers ideal protection.
Frankly, sometimes you feel like, folks are kind of working against you. We're just trying to take care of people. But when there's a lot of folks out there spreading misinformation, it's very difficult.
It's tough to walk that line between what is misinformation and what is asking a question. If you can ask the question, I had COVID already. Am I going to contract it in the same way that someone who's been vaccinated will contract it? Because if you can get COVID just on a lesser level because you've been vaccinated, can you walk down that same path if you've had COVID before? It seems like a very easy question to answer. How many people, like 2,400 plus people in the hospital right now? I mean, you might not want to bother them right now, but you ask them enough to find out if they're vaccinated or not. Have you had COVID before? How bad did you have it? When did you have it? How long ago? 2,421 people in the hospital right now. That's as of Friday's count. And yes, of those 2,421, 90% of them, 90% were not fully vaccinated. That being said, I got to ask, what's the next excuse? After we run out of the natural immunity excuse? Like, when doctors answer that question, what's going to be the next question presented as your reason why you're not getting vaccinated? Once this question gets answered, which one are you moving on to next? Because you know it's coming. You know if you're asking this question now, you're going to ask another question next. How many questions and answers does it take before you get over the hump? Or can you just up and admit when you don't want the vaccine? Can you just up and say, I'm not getting it? Deal with it. I'm not getting it. I think the natural immunity is a good question from jump. From jump. And if we get definitive answers, we can close the book on that and move on to whatever's next. But that being said, that's about the sum of what we know about natural immunity. The short answer is the variants change the game. The variants make this a different story altogether. Our next segment, we're going to talk about... our next segment is going to be a segment from another show. Dr. Mark Laperouse from Our Lady of the Lake was on MSNBC over the weekend. and he was talking about kids and COVID. It's back to school time. Our kids are about to, be back in classrooms and whatnot. There's a lot to cover in that regard. I wanted to dive into this and pull a couple sound bites, and as I'm watching it, I'm like, you know what? It's a 4-minute long interview. The entire thing is worthwhile. So we're going to play it back in its entirety to learn a lot more about what we're seeing this go around with COVID when it comes to kids. That's coming your way in just a little bit. Hey, also still to come, we talk kids with when we hear from Dr. Mark Laperouse, but in our Medical Monday segment, let's talk about vaccines and pregnancy. What questions are there to be asked and answered? We're going to dive into that in Medical Monday presented by Our Lady of the Lake. That's all still to come. Right now, quick break, check traffic, check your money now, then we're back at it on Talk 107.3.
Trying to give you a minute on back in hit Mooyah.
Ah, Mooyah.
I haven't added the logo yet.
Jay is adding it. I emailed it to him. He's going to add it and send it right back to you. Byron says, I'm glad baseball can give Brian the much-needed comfort and relaxation he needs. Eye roll. Do what?
It was not about double R.
It was not about what?
I was wondering where we find YouTube, and I was like, search Brian Haldane on YouTube. I was like, well, maybe you could show me. You could look it up and show me, because it ain't there. And I pulled up Brian Haldane on YouTube. First video says live. I was like, no, sir, it's right here. The Mornings with Brian Haldane show. It says live. He goes, a bunch of old ones pop up. I was like, the Surfer Show. Like, I don't know if you want me to do.
Was it the codger who always calls? Really?
No,
Good.
I told him, I was like, this is our first show. I was like, I'm just telling you what I did. It was like right here. It's right there at the top of the page. It says live. It says Mornings with Brian.
Post the link on Talk's Facebook page.
Okay. I'm like, I'll speak for us.
One of the best things I did in 2020 was call Premier South Roofing and Sheet Metal. They did such a great job on our roof that 3 of my neighbors hired them, and the next block did too.
Okay. I'm going to go back to Troy's comment in a second, but someone who goes by the name Tugboat Charlie Cat says, the COVID's going to get you. Or not. Doesn't that just sum it up, though? We're going to get into numbers with the kids here in just a minute, and then even more so at 8:15 when we have audio from the governor. It's disturbing, to say the least. How long has she been vaccinated?
She got vaccinated the same time I did, so around May.
Okay. How bad did she have the Delta variant?
The Delta was so much worse than she had COVID.
Did she go to the hospital?
She had to go to the doctor and get checked, and they were like,
But checked into the hospital.
yeah, she never checked.
Okay.
I had to cut out everything.
It's good.
There was a minute, and we only had.
Still green this morning with no slowdowns yet. If you're coming in from Livingston, take I-12 without having to worry about any traffic jams, at least for the time being. 8 minutes due to the airline. Livingston goes back to school on Wednesday, so I'm sure we're going to see more traffic going in on I-12. Looking good right now in Prairieville. Traffic moving there at Highway 73, so no issues for anyone coming in from the city tomorrow. And West Baton Rouge back today. Look, you can see some school buses, all right? This morning navigating without any slowdown. Let's take you outside and check on our traffic cameras. Looking good as well around the Mississippi River Bridge.
See an accident reported at WBRZ Traffic on Twitter. This report is brought to you by Shawbills, where you can get up to $170 with the purchase of 4 new select BF Goodrich or Michelin tires. Visit ShawbillsTire.com to learn more.
Go, you can go ahead and pull through.
I'm Jennifer Kushiko with your money.
I'll hit Mooyah on the way back in.
Oh, you already
You got the Mark Laperouse thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't even need to pull this up.
Tourism rates are comparable to 2019.
Just grab the Laperouse segment.
While Canadian businesses near the border has spent weeks preparing for the country's reopening, travelers may have a harder time getting certain reservations.
If you want,
Or
like, down here.
longer wait times due to staffing
No, like, go
shortages
here.
and supply
Just
chain
type up the
issues. All travelers will need to show proof of vaccines and a negative COVID test to enter. Google co-founder Larry Page is giving New Zealand residents a stoking debate over whether extremely wealthy people can essentially buy access to the South Pacific country.
I typically do mornings with Brian Haldane.
Says
I just look at the little topics that they talk about. Be like an hour one, they did this, and it's like quick little 40 word descriptions. You want to go straight into it, Bruce?
No, I'm gonna set it up because it's not my content. It came from MSNBC, so I got to give attribution on the front end.
Throw all those together.
What are the Delta variant numbers in comparison to other peaks? Are the R naught factor and deaths as a percentage of positive infections and hospitalizations? So I'm curious about those, but you got to look at them through this lens, though, is if 40% of the people are already vaccinated, all the numbers you're seeing right now are based off of the remaining population who's available to get this on a bad level. .652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Got CBS World News Roundup coming your way in 7.5 minutes. Gonna hear an entire interview. I was gonna pick this thing apart and make it like little bitty sound bites, but it's just it's really solid content from start to finish. There was no one piece that was greater than the others. Dr. Mark Laperouse was on with MSNBC over the weekend talking about COVID-19 and kids, which is apropos this week as so many schools are back in as of this week. Going to dive into that in just a minute. I do need to ask you, though, first, what are you doing for lunch today? What are you doing for lunch? Do you have your plans yet? Because if you don't, might I suggest Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. You know how they do it at Mooyah. They make sure the ingredients are fresh. I mean, like buns baked fresh daily. Vegetables cut fresh every day. The French fries on your plate were in the ground 2-3 days ago. They take care of you at Mooyah with the fresh ingredients. They take care of you at Mooyah when it comes to customer service, and they take care of you at Mooyah when it comes to the specialty burgers. Mine of choice, the Double Diablo. God, I'm going to Mooyah this Friday. So looking forward to it. Double Diablo. It's got the Cholula sauce. It's got the pepper jack cheese. It's got the jalapenos and a little bit of bacon as well. Oh, there's some pop behind this thing. And that's just one of many that you could find on their menu. Mushroom Swiss burger, A1 cheeseburger. They've got you on the gluten-free side if that's what you need. They've got the iceberg lettuce wrap if that's what you need on the low-carb side. They've got you covered. Black bean veggie burger if you're on that vegan route. 2 locations, Segan right near Industrialplex or Blue Bonnet at Highland. Check out Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. All right, MSNBC, and I want to give full attribution because this is not my content. Dr. Mark Laperouse from Our Lady of the Lake. We're great partners with Our Lady of the Lake. Mark Laperouse was on MSNBC talking about COVID-19 and its effect on children.
All right, joining me now is Dr. Mark Laperouse, a critical care medicine specialist at Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Doctor, thanks for joining us on this. Really appreciate it. So I first want to tackle kind of what it is that I led with, which is 3,000 kids now testing positive in the state of Louisiana with COVID. Give me a sense as to how kids are reacting to the virus. Is it any different than we saw them reacting to the Alpha variant?
Yeah, the Alpha variant didn't seem to affect kids as severely. This Delta variant it's got known so much more virulence, so it's so much more potent, if you will. And the potency of the virus is what's causing more kids this go around to get sick and to be hospitalized.
Do you have any kids currently in your ICU, in your hospital?
Yeah, so we actually have 2 sides of the street. We have an adult hospital, and then on the other side of the street, the children's hospital. So the children's hospital does have a number of COVID patients, both on their floors and in the ICU.
Give me a sense of what's happening in your hospital right now with their most recent surge.
And so this surge is causing so many unintended consequences. It's one thing that we have 175 COVID-19 patients admitted to the hospital right now. It's another thing what it's doing and affecting other parts of the hospital. We've had to slow down surgeries or completely stop elective surgeries just to make room on the inpatient wards for our patients. We've had to stop accepting patients coming in from other facilities that we normally can bail out, some smaller hospitals in smaller towns. So we're not able to take care of patients that we normally would, regardless of the COVID-19, because they're just adding to the issue. On top of all that, we rarely have 175 patients in the hospital that are requiring oxygen. All of these COVID-19 patients are requiring oxygen, wow. And as a result, it's freezing up our oxygen lines because there's too much flow going through the walls. So we're having to figure out ways to get oxygen to our patients. Just before this call, I was told that we no longer have oxygen concentrators that we can send patients home with. We've been pushing the limits and sending patients home on oxygen, Jeez. And now we don't even have the resources to give them the care at home. So we're going to have to find ways to keep them in the hospital until we can remedy that.
How is this comparing to the situation you experienced at the beginning of this pandemic?
I would much rather be in March and April of 2020 than we are currently. It's very sad the things that the decisions that we're having to make for other hospitals, for other illnesses that are not just COVID-19 related. Back in March and April at that point of 2020, we didn't have the vaccine. We didn't have certain treatments. We know so much more right now. We know more about this vaccine right now. I'll be the first to admit that I was a little hesitant when the vaccine first came out because I didn't know if it would work. But now we're seeing in front of our own eyes that it works. Between 80 and 90% of the hospitalized COVID-19 patients are unvaccinated. That tells me that the vaccine works. So all of the hesitation people had early, is it even justified anymore? Now that we've got more evidence, more studies, more articles telling us that the actual vaccine is working. So, I use a lot of analogies. I'm a very simple guy. I think emergency medicine, we have to know a lot of things, but we have to simplify things. Think if we had a yard full of weeds and we wanted to attack that problem. We wouldn't go spraying weed killer in small little portions of the yard expecting us to eliminate the weeds. We'd have to blanket the whole yard with weed killer in order to overcome the problem. If we think about things in more simplified terms and not complicate this discussion, we need to blanket this place with the vaccine, similar to weed killer in a yard that's overgrown, so that we can stop this from spreading, so we can stop it from spreading and mutating and going to different areas that are vaccinated and causing a problem there. So if we can blanket this country and this world with vaccinated individuals, I think we're going to have a chance at overcoming this thing.
We can only hope, right? Doctor, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I know that your time is hard to share right now, considering how inundated you are, but we appreciate and all the work that you're doing every single day, putting your own life at risk every single day, despite the fact that you are vaccinated. Thank you.
Mark's been on the show before as part of Medical Monday. Medical Monday will be coming your way at 7:15 this morning. We are going to be talking about vaccinations and pregnancy, and how the Delta variant is affecting pregnancies as well. Earlier on, it didn't look like the previous variants had an effect. So that's all coming your way at 7:15. A couple of takeaways from there, though, is he mentioned about the oxygen getting through the walls into the patient's rooms and whatnot and being pumped through. Just to kind of give you an idea, we are Baton Rouge is LDH's Region 2. As of right now, there are only 18 ICU beds available. I should say, not as of right now. As of last reporting, there were only 18 ICU beds available in the greater Baton Rouge region, or in Region 2, as it were. Region 4, the Acadiana region, there's only 5. Region 5, which I believe is Alexandria, there's only 2. Hour 2 coming your way after the CBS World News Roundup on Talk 107.3. I got to run down to my desk real quick.
No, we'll just grab it from here. Put MSNBC's interview with Brian. Since you did an interview, like I said, put MSNBC's interview. An interview from MSNBC with Mark Laperouse. MSNBC's. Yeah, from MSNBC's.
Got to get back in the routine of this.
when he's doing these, if you want, I typically listen to the interview and type it up as it goes. It's just easier like that. Like, what do you mean? Like while the interview's going, instead of having to go back and listen to it after the show and post it, like I'll listen to it. Oh, about like what the interview. Yeah, like this one. Like this one's coming up Medical Monday. I'll listen to it while it's happening. Yeah. Just because it's easier. And then I'll just take away a segment. So I'm saving it all. And you can go ahead and post it. Yeah, well. Now, this is weird. You're going to have to post it twice. This computer, it's like this on Google Chrome, too. So go down. No, add it. Down. This is weird. And then go to upload media quality. But like, you'll click upload. This folder should be uploaded. Yeah, so we'll do that one. Like, you'll click upload, it'll say this session has expired, and you have to click try again, and you have to just upload it again, and then it works fine. I don't know why. It's always done that. So I click upload again. Yeah. Now go to publish. I go publish it. Please try again. Just let it load right back up again. And do everything you just did. And it should be right here this time. And then select, I don't know why you can do it. Then you probably have to, no, you're good there. So you just click upload.
All right, let's see here. Clinton says, just an FYI, for some reason when I searched for Mornings with Brian Haldane, older videos came up for YouTube. That's weird because this is the first one we're doing. Mornings with Brian Haldane.
Search Brian Haldane.
Yeah, just search my name.
Like, I have searched Brian Haldane. Your video is at the top line.
I got Clint, are you mobile or desktop? That might have factor into it as well. But this is literally the first one we've done.
I'll search it right at the top.
Yeah. This is the first one we've done, so I don't know why that would be a thing. What older videos are there?
Now, there's a video of you, but like it was supposed to like the ESPN and stuff. Like you search your name, but still, the first video is the live video right here. I'm looking at it.
Yeah. Mobile. It pulled my pulled me filling in for JD Cody. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense too. Yeah, but subscribe. Please subscribe. Here's the thing. If we could start a friendly little rivalry, I would like to beat the pants off of JD Cody's subscription numbers. I'm never do what? No, I'm not going to have an edge on him because he's Jada Cody, for crying out loud. There's no way I wouldn't be able to run with that. Oh, God. My stomach feels rotten this morning. Where am I at on live reads? Have I had any more this morning?
No, I gave you the 2 you have now.
That was it?
So it's probably 222.
Okay.
I'm maybe on it 6.
So,
7 would be counting those on 2 days.
yeah.
Because it's VRP VBR matches. Maybe
Complete collision.
McDarns.
So that's 5 that are daily and then 2 that are... Ghost Slim is only Tuesdays and Fridays, even though I end up talking about them every damn day.
Thursday and Friday is
Beef. And that's only another week or 3 weeks.
you've already done 2.
All right, Dan.
No, you're on pace right now. I don't know if we're never on pace, but we want to do that.
Well, if I want to be sold out, and I do want to be sold out, then okay.
So just mark it over here. Yeah, you don't have to get the full song. As long as
.705 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane. Rolling your way right now. Should pregnant women get vaccinated? Spoiler alert, yes. But that's going to be the topic of our Medical Monday coming up in our next segment. Also, we'll be talking with Stephen Wagasback from LABI, the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. That is coming your way later this hour. We partner up with the Louisiana Beef Industry Council every year to bring you Foodie Friday throughout the grilling season. Memorial Day to Labor Day is the long and the short of that one. But I like to get a little bit deeper into the topic and find out what's going on in the industry. Beef is a pretty decent industry here in Louisiana. The Louisiana Beef Industry Council is the leader in that industry. Amelia Kent is going to join us at 8:35 to talk about it. They've been seeing those COVID effects just like the rest of us, every other industry out there. I mean, there's no area that isn't untouched by COVID-19. What's the latest on their front? That'll be at 8:35. Of course, Taylor's going to have This Day in History to start off next hour. We'll have the Outside In later this hour. Right now, though, it's time for Top Stories and Trending. Let's go. The Louisiana Civil Rights Trail will add a new marker to honor the state's first March of the movement. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser says they will unveil the marker today at A.Z. Young Park in downtown Baton Rouge. The spot will commemorate Louisiana's first Civil Rights March and its longest, a 105-mile walk from Bogalusa to Baton Rouge that started on August 10th, 1967. I'm guessing the first 10 miles of that walk were the fastest because, you want to put Bogalusa in the rear view either way. The leaders included civil rights activists A.Z. Young, Bob Hicks, and Gail Jenkins. Nungesser's office says the march grew from 25 people to 600 across the journey. Members of Young's family will attend the unveiling of the marker. One person was shot at a Waffle House early Saturday morning. The Baker Police Department said 2 people were at the Waffle House on Plank Road around 5 a.m. when they got into a dispute, scattered, smothered, and covered versus chunked. It's not going to come to a resolution. I can make that joke because the person had non-life-threatening injuries. That person is being treated at a local hospital.
You need to get it country. That's a game changer.
Whoa! I don't know this one.
White country gravy
Nope,
on it.
I'm out.
White country gravy.
I can't do white gravy.
Oh, my God.
For so many reasons. 3,228 initial unemployment insurance claims were filed last week. That's 106 more than the previous week. A slight uptick from the previous week to last week. We saw things go back up. Things have been trending downward, especially over the course of the last year. Last year, during that same week, we saw 13,402 unemployment claims filed in Louisiana. By the way, the 4-week moving average of initial claims dropped from 4,100 from the previous week to 4,100 from the previous week's 4,349. Unemployment numbers, it looks like they are about to be back on a slight uptick. As of Saturday, the Mid-City and Bluebonnet campuses of the Baton Rouge General have a combined 175 COVID patients, surpassing the previous high of 169 set in April of last year. You heard in that interview in the last hour from Dr. Mark Laperouse, they're in about that same number. Only 15 of the patients at both locations of the Baton Rouge General have been vaccinated. So, 175 your total, 15 vaccinated. That tells you that 160 of the 175 unvaccinated. Quote, I think I just wasn't ready. I needed to be ready mentally as well as physically, says Baton Rouge resident Tina Trammell, talking about the uptick in hospitalizations. And what they're seeing at Baton Rouge General is similar to what you're seeing throughout the area, throughout the state. A fire that displaced at least 9 people broke out in a Gardier area duplex Sunday night, according to officials. The St. George Fire Department and first responders were dispatched to the 8100 block of Skysail Avenue around 6:18 yesterday evening. Upon arriving, they found flames and smoke coming from the back of a duplex. Their quick response resulted in successfully preventing the fire from spreading to other area structures. The blaze was under control about an hour later. However, the incident left 5 adults and 4 children, including a 4-month-old, temporarily without a home. That is a look at your top stories. Here is a look at what's trending this morning. Sad story over the weekend, actually. Bobby Bowden passed. The Hall of Fame coach who built Florida State into an unprecedented college football dynasty died at 91 years old. Bobby's son, Terry, confirmed to the Associated Press that his father died at his home in Tallahassee, Florida, surrounded by family early Sunday morning. Quote, "It was truly peaceful," Terry Bowden said in a text message to the AP. Bowden announced on July 21st that he had a terminal illness that Terry Bowden later said was pancreatic cancer. Bowden, 377 wins in his 40-plus year career as a major college coach. 315 of those were at Florida State. And aside from his wins and losses, just a true character of the game, someone that will be forever remembered as part of college football. Bobby Bowden dies at 91 years old. We're going to take a quick break here in just a second, come back from Medical Monday on the back end. First, though, I got to tell you about the folks over at Complete Collision Center. You can check them out online at CompleteCollision.com. CompleteCollision.com. Brian, why do I need to look up the website for a body shop? 2 reasons. Number 1, get a phone number for the location closest to you, either Plank Road in Zachary or Blue Bonnet at Perkins. Number 2, they do a lot at Complete Collision different than you're going to find at other body shops. Getting to the root causes of what's underneath, getting to the hidden damage, getting your car fixed safely to get your family back on the road safely. Cars are built and designed with crumple zones and redundancies and a bunch of other things that make sure safety is at the forefront when they come off the assembly line. But if you get into an accident and only repair the surface damage, those crumple zones and redundancies are no longer working in your favor should that car be in another accident. Complete Collision takes care of that. They get to the chassis. They get to the skeleton of the car, if you will. They're certified by more than a dozen major manufacturers. They have the iCar Gold Class certification, and they're prepared to take on the battle with the insurance company that you're going to have, and you are going to have a battle with your insurance company. Let them pick up the sword. Let them pick up that battle. Check them out online, CompleteCollision.com. Don't let who you choose to repair your vehicle be your second accident. Check out CompleteCollision.com. All right, quick break. When we come back, Our Lady of the Lake brings you Medical Monday next. Can you find out this doctor's title and everything? I get little to no information on these now.
Talk 107.3. Doctor, what's your last name? Katie Taylor. What's your daughter? Which one you want to go by? What is it again? Okay. Gotcha. And Dr. Katie Taylor. Okay, we're going to be with you in like 1 minute. All right. Dr. Katie Taylor, the director of disease prevention or virus prevention or whatever it is.
Virus prevention?
Or the assistant director. It's like the assistant director of virus prevention and other.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Clinton says boo to you, Brian. Why? What did I do? I mean, yeah, just in general, sure. Make morning happy hour a thing. Not going to happen. Tugboat Charlie Cat says, "Hey you, hashtag no Cuomo." Yeah, we're if you're looking for a show about Andrew Cuomo, I'd encourage you to look up New York radio stations. I try and keep it as local as possible. Byron says the drought in the West is having a significant impact on the industry. Expect prices to rise. Okay. The poor Waffle House joke. Oh, yeah. All right. That's fair. That's fair. Yes, it is time for Medical Monday. Time to welcome in Dr. Katie Taylor, who heads up virus prevention at Our Lady of the Lake. Dr. Taylor, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. Glad to have you on this morning. Glad to be talking about this because there seems to be a lot of unanswered questions about pregnancy and COVID-19. But before we get to that, can we just start with an overall view of what you're looking at Our Lady of the Lake right now when it comes to the Delta variant and how it's impacting things on campus?
Yeah, so the Delta variant has been kind of wreaking havoc over here. We're doing better than we were in the first wave because we're more prepared this time, but we're seeing the highest case rates per day in the last week. We've been hoping that they've been coming down, but we've been averaging about 30 admits a day, which is the peak of any surge we've had before. So we're stretched thin, but for sure, and but we're doing our best to take care of these patients as best we can.
I mean, you're all running the risk of running out of beds?
Right now, we have increased our ICU beds by kind of stretching our staff. ICU nurses usually take care of patients 1 to 2, which means 1 nurse to 2 patients, and we've had to open some ICUs of 1 nurse to 4 patients. So we're kind of doing things to mitigate that we have more beds, but it's definitely not giving the best care to the patients right now.
No, absolutely, and it's looking like no end in immediate sight. Although the more people get vaccinated, the quicker we can put a potential end date to this particular surge. Got you on here to talk about pregnancy and COVID-19. Let me just start with the very basic question, and then we'll break it down a little further after that. Should pregnant women get the COVID-19 vaccine?
Absolutely. Look, I had a lot of family and friends who have been on the fence when they've been pregnant, and I tried to talk through all the risks. Right now, given the prevalence of this highly contagious Delta variant, I am advising every single person I see that is pregnant to get the vaccine. First off, the vaccine is safe in pregnancy. And secondly, more importantly, pregnant women, as compared to their non-pregnant counterparts of their age group, have a higher risk for serious illness, including ICU admissions, ventilation, which means being put on a breathing machine, and even death. So given the risk to risk analysis of vaccine risk versus my risk of getting COVID and having a serious outcome, I'm saying without a doubt you should get the vaccine. The other thing there is that pregnant women who are vaccinated have the added benefit that once they start to make antibodies to the virus from their exposure to the vaccine, those antibodies get transmitted to their unborn child. So will protect the child both in utero and shortly after birth.
I was actually going to ask that as a follow-up to last week. We heard a report of about a baby being born with COVID or was, contracted COVID before even leaving the hospital. I don't know if it was born with COVID or the other way around. But if that can happen in one direction, can a transference of antibodies happen in the other direction? So your answer to that is yes?
Yes, absolutely. We've known that for a long time, that pregnant women give their immune system is helping to take care of that baby, yes.
Have we learned anything about mothers transferring COVID to their babies? I mean, is COVID-19, it's everywhere, but like right. How much of a pod, how much of a bubble can we have even in times of pregnancy?
So we have no evidence right now that COVID is what we call transplacental. There are infections that we worry about that can cross the placenta and basically infect the mother and the baby. And COVID is not one. We've looked at different things, looking at cord blood and everything like that, right. That we don't see that in utero the baby will get COVID from the mother. What usually happens is that the mother has COVID around the time of childbirth and directly transmits it to the baby just as she would with somebody else in her household.
Does the mother having COVID affect protocols for delivery? I mean, how does it change things when you're I know I'm getting super granular here, but the
Yeah.
delivery process, I mean, does it limit like whether or not the husband can be in there, that sort of thing?
I don't know at the moment.
No sweat.
Because because most of the deliveries go to to Women's Hospital.
Right.
But I do know if in our hospital, if you have COVID, you're not allowed to have visitors. So it could potentially risk that. We have to take extra precautions, as a medical staff going into that patient's room if they did have COVID. And obviously they're going to be at risk for giving it to their child. We can try to mitigate that risk as best we can. But, we do want mothers to breastfeed their children and everything like that. So it is a challenge.
We're talking virus prevention with Dr. Katie Taylor from Our Lady of the Lake. Dr. Taylor, I'd like you to address something that has been, I don't want to say rumor, but talked about a heck of a lot. And that is fertility and the COVID-19 vaccine, or the dangers to fertility in the COVID-19 vaccine. Can you dispel any myths that are out there when it comes to this?
Yeah, this is a total myth that came up, early in the vaccine. There really was no scientific evidence to say that for COVID vaccine or any vaccine, actually, prior to the COVID vaccine, have we seen infertility issues. And because the question came up, of course, medical researchers jumped on it and have started to look at it. And we have some limited data now showing that there is no effect on fertility in men or women at the moment.
I think this is big because when you talk about opening up the vaccine to teenagers or possibly younger than that, one of the hesitancies is, especially for women, would be their fertility throughout life. So this would, throughout their lives, this would address that directly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dr. Taylor, I want to ask you about, I asked you about the antibodies in the breast milk. What does this mean as far as building natural immunity for the children?
Yeah, so a lactating mother who has gotten the vaccine before they are lactating or during, so just the same way that a mother gives her antibodies to her baby through her placenta, once that baby's born, we've also known this for quite some time, that lactating mothers have whatever protecting antibodies they have, whether it's from a prior infection, a current infection, or a vaccine in their history, they're going to give those antibodies to that baby through their breast milk as long as they're breastfeeding. And that, because babies don't have a very good immune system, so this is a way that nature has made mothers being able to protect their babies through their own immune system.
I like the confidence that comes with that, but I also don't want to build false confidence. And we've been told that as vaccinated people, we have to wear masks anyway because we could still carry COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
How do you walk the balance of sharing antibodies with your child versus you could very well still have COVID-19 while you're breastfeeding? Right.
So that if a person does get COVID while they're breastfeeding, and obviously the best way to prevent yourself from getting COVID is to get vaccinated in the first place. But just when mothers get any type of infection when they breastfeed, we don't say stop breastfeeding because you are going to give those antibodies to your baby as you produce them. We say do your best to wash your hands, try to wear a mask if you're breastfeeding, that sort of thing. Just try to mitigate the transfer to your baby. But it's way better to continue breastfeeding to give your baby that immunity rather than to quit breastfeeding and in the hopes of not giving that baby COVID.
What are some of the other tips and I don't want to say hacks, but what are some of the other things that pregnant women or those who have recently delivered should be on the lookout for when it comes to combating COVID-19 and taking care of their children?
I think really just trying to mitigate their contact with people who have COVID. So really the best way you can do that at the moment without knowing who has COVID around you, right? Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. So getting vaccinated is number one. Right now, wearing masks, because the Delta variant is so prevalent in our area, masks should be worn whenever you're in a public situation for sure. But and the other thing that pregnant women can do, and anybody can do, is if you know that a person has had COVID, just try to follow the CDC guidelines. That person should be quarantined for 10 days, not being around people that potentially have COVID.
That is one of the toughest things to do, though. I mean, having a baby is the time that family comes together and celebrates.
Absolutely.
And oh, God, such a tough line to walk.
Look, I had my baby during the pandemic, June of 2020, so I totally understand. It's a difficult thing to do. You're trying to do, you want to enjoy that time. You want your family to see your baby, but you want to protect your baby too. So it's unfortunately a situation we have to deal with right now. And hopefully the more and more people we get vaccinated, we'll get ourselves out of this, and pregnant people or even mothers, newborn mothers, won't have to deal with this issue anymore.
First of all, congratulations. That's fantastic.
You.
Secondly, what was that like? I mean, trying to take maternity leave in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, I was able to do it. I was in a transition time in my career, so it was actually just took 3 months off before I started my next job, so that was good. But I still had the same restrictions in the hospital. One at the time, it was one visitor, so we dealt with that, and I had the benefit of being out of town, so I kind of got isolated from my family anyway. So, but yeah, it wasn't what I imagined it to be. Let's put it that way.
And I'm sure when you went on maternity leave, you're like, this will all be over by the time I'm back, right?
Oh, yes. Everybody thought we'd be far beyond this at this point, but it looks like, COVID's here to stay, and hopefully we can just mitigate these surges by getting people vaccinated.
Absolutely. Got two more for you before I'll let you go here, and one of them is about the learning process. This pandemic has been a learning process from the start till now through every variant that we've had. What have we seen in that process when it comes to pregnancy and COVID, and how has that changed from variant to variant? Meaning, is there any difference in the way people are treated and or what they should be doing on a preventative side?
From the preventative side, I know we've learned more about masks, and masks really, really do help. And obviously vaccines really do work. So that for mitigating, getting COVID there, that would be that. In the hospital, much of the difference now is that from the beginning is we have readily available PPE. We've been through this before, so we're kind of ready when we have. And look, we're going through shortages here at the lake. We have shortage of oxygen. Well, we've done that before, so we know how to kind of cross those barriers where we were having to figure it out before. The treatments are constantly changing, and look, the treatments, they're not like antibiotics are for bacteria. The treatments mostly are to mitigate your own immune system. So those are kind of the changes we're seeing now. I hope that answered your question. Was there any clarification?
That absolutely does answer my question. The last one I've got for you before I get you out of here is we're on the Delta variant now, but the Lambda variant is already in the state. Are we seeing any diminishing effects of variants as this thing continues to morph?
Diminishing effects of, can you restate that?
Is the Delta variant seems to be more virulent than previous variants, but it doesn't look like this thing's getting weaker as it spreads or morphs or mutates.
No, so when a virus mutates, it's basically a random, like, what's going to happen with the virus. So
Gotcha.
Sometimes viruses mutate, they get weaker. Sometimes viruses mutate, they get stronger. So this one, and so we're always, the more people that have the virus, the more risk we are for a new variant that's going to come up that's worse. Right now, the Delta variant is extremely contagious. So what we were seeing in the beginning is that one person who had COVID would on average infect 2 to 3 people. Well, the Delta variant, one person on average infects 6 to 9 people. That is an incredible jump. And so that is why we're seeing so many new cases. Is it more serious? I think it's causing the same amount of seriousness as it was in the past. It's just more people had it right now.
So percentage-wise, probably not as serious, but the fact that it's hitting more people, your cumulative number remains the main.
Yeah, and the added thing there is that we're seeing, before it was, it's this at-risk population. Those are the people that end up in the ICU. Well, really, right now, you could have a perfectly healthy 30-year-old show up and end up in the ICU. It has so much to do with your own unique immune system, whether what's going to happen to you if you get COVID. And that's why I try to tell people, you need to get the yes, you're healthy. And likely is that you're not going to be seriously ill from the vaccine. But why take that risk that you're in that number of those healthy people that end up on a ventilator?
She is Dr. Katie Taylor. I can't tell you how much we appreciate the time and the information. This was fantastic.
Yeah,
we covered a lot of ground this morning. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Dr. Katie Taylor. That is Medical Monday presented by Our Lady of the Lake. We do it every single Monday right here on Talk 107.3 FM. Got CBS News coming your way in just a second, then we'll check local news, traffic, weather, the works. On the backside of news, we're going to talk with Stephen Wagasback from LABI. In the meantime, Download the all-new Talk 1073 mobile app presented to you by Gregory Ricks and Associates. Listen live. Find out what you missed on demand. Even set an alarm to wake up with this show. The Talk 1073 mobile app presented by Gregory Ricks and Associates. All right, let's knock out news. We got news, traffic, weather coming your way right now on Talk 1073. BR Mattress. More contagious, less virulent. Yeah, yeah, if you've got a disease that affects 100 people and 10 of them die, that is bad. If you've got a disease that affects 1,000 people and 101 die, like it just the numbers aren't bearing it out. Or if you got a disease that affects 1,000 people and 90 die, you've had 9 times more deaths, but the percentage of those who are going to die is lower. Hey, where's my wife this morning? Huh? Hey, oh. Nope.
You got it?
I'm just now seeing your text to do Muya.
You already got it.
Yeah. We're good. Yeah, I wasn't explaining for you. I was just agreeing with you. It's, huh. Okay, you know what keeps popping up if you pull me up on YouTube? Is like other people posting segments and whatnot. Paul Violas comes up on mine. Me talking trash to somebody from 104.5. Yeah, mine came up at the live one. The live one should always come up at the top because it's live. I love this, though.
Select BF Goodrich.
Yeah, this is the only Starlet that does this. So have fun with it.
It's been a very quiet morning on the roadway, so a nice way to kick off this back-to-school Monday. 11 minutes range to the 10-12. Map turning yellow on us right around O'Neill.
It's hot. Hot this morning. This shirt runs hot.
No, just wait. We'll post the whole hour first. Just save it. And then we'll post the whole hour. So I'd save it and then add a new one for Steve.
Ask him when he wants to cover this morning, please.
Hey, what's up, Stephen? You ready to go? Brian wants to know what you want to cover this morning. Okay. All right, sounds good. All right, give us like 2 minutes. Transportation in the Senate, economy during COVID, and like the census thing that just came out for the redistricting.
Redistricting, you said?
Yeah, for like the census thing, some census thing.
Yeah.
sad about that one too. I didn't see that up, but chicken wings would really be
Brian Kilmeade. So he said, well, what can you do?
There's so much fucking filler.
You have the vaccine, you're going to be fine. There are some people that have breakthroughs.
There's another kill me right behind it that I'm cutting out.
But you know what it looks like? The cold. Not even that. You have a little bit of congestion and you're done. Is that why you put on a mask and stay home from work? Never has been before.
Brian Kilmeade, weekday mornings from 10 to 1 on Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. Bringing you the news you can use with Brian Kilmeade and common sense for your
All right.
Dave Ramsey, Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. From the WBRZ Weather Center.
The hot and humid weather pattern is back. Conditions will be muggy today, with temperatures climbing into the mid-90s this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly sunny, and in the late afternoon, a few showers will bubble up.
I love it. We've got Stephen Wagasback, and he doesn't need clarification on spelling Wagasback, but does on Stephen.
Yeah. Oh no, I nailed Wagasback.
There you go.
No problems there. Even though there are like 8 spellings of Wagasback.
Wagasback, normal spelling.
My pediatrician when I was younger was Waggenspack.
That's Wagonsback.
Wagonsback, but he said it the same way. Everyone who's a Wagonsback is all spelled differently.
Yeah. 7:38. Well, 7:37 still. Got a couple more seconds before that minute turns over. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Dr. Katie Taylor for hopping on for Medical Monday. Now it's time to talk a little business. Time to welcome in Stephen Wagasback, the president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Stephen, what's going on, man? How's your Monday?
Man, doing well. Got my poker face on with that FM music and ready to dominate the week. First day back at school. I'm looking forward to it.
First day back in school. Okay, are you one of those guys that like mourns the end of summer, or do you look forward to get back into the routine?
I'm more of a it is what it is guy. So,
Okay.
I mean, if we're in summer, I'm enjoying summer. If it's school time, I'm enjoying school time. I'm just like, hey, life is what it is. Nope, don't pout. Put on your uniform, eat your breakfast, let's go.
All right, I like it. See, for me, I'm out the door at 4:15 in the morning, so it doesn't make a difference one way or another. I appreciate the routine, though. You know.
Yeah, I'm snoring soundly at 4:15. At least I try to the best I can. You know.
We got a lot of ground to cover as far as business in Louisiana is concerned, and let's start with COVID, though. Let's start by talking about managing your business through COVID, because the mask mandates are back, and one can only think that if numbers continue to worsen, we might see further restrictions. From LABI's perspective, what have you heard from your members about fears about further restrictions?
Well, where we've been, and we've been in constant communication with the administration and other health officials and everything, is we want to do whatever we need to do to avoid additional economic restrictions. If that means wearing a mask, if that means trying to help promote vaccinations by flattening the curve and getting our herd immunity up, whatever it takes, we're all in for, because quite frankly, our economy, in our opinion, is not strong enough for additional restrictions. Our unemployment rate is about 2.5 points higher than it was before the pandemic started. We're still trailing the national average. Every key economic sector running down. We're about 165,000 jobs less than we were before the pandemic started. And if you think about hospitality, retail, restaurants, those folks, those kind of like the culture and tourism type jobs, man, those guys are hanging on by a thread. You're already seeing concerts like Jazz Fest getting canceled. We cannot have more restrictions there because they're struggling enough getting their employees back. If you put another shutdown or restriction on them, many of those are reporting us they're not sure how they hang on. So we're all in for doing whatever it takes to make sure that we're doing the responsible thing to make sure we fight this uptick, but at the same time we don't lead to more further economic restrictions. That's why we came out and supported the executive order. We're encouraging folks to wear masks. We're definitely promoting vaccination. If you can talk to your doctor and get comfortable with it, that's great, because we're all in for whatever it takes to avoid additional economic restrictions.
Well, not to mention the fact that as we saw a return to business, so rewind the clock all the way back to the shutdown, right? When we saw a slow return to business with restrictions of occupancy, Did we see any discernible effects on the overall number of cases when we went from 25% occupancy to 50, or from 50 up to? Was there a stopover at 75 along the way? And did we see any discernible difference in percentage of positivity, whether you had 75% occupancy or 100?
I mean, if there is data on that, I sure as heck haven't seen it.
Same.
And the truth is, the name of the game, it seems like, is vaccinations. And right now, we're one of the lower vaccinated states in the country by percentage. And that percentage has gone up the last week or two, which is a good trend. And, we'd like to see that get even higher. Because the thing about vaccinations, it's not just helping folks avoid getting the Delta variant version, but also, it seems to greatly diminish the type of things that happen to someone if they do catch it. And so you turn a minor health issue into an ICU bed visit if you don't have that vaccination. So, look, everyone's got to, make the decision that's best for their own body. We totally get that. But please talk to your doctor if you haven't been vaccinated. They might be able to clear up some of those concerns you may have, get you comfortable. And if we can get those rates higher, then I think we have a really good argument to tell for why additional economic restrictions are not necessary. We can save small business in this state and allow them to get back up on their feet.
Stephen Wagasback, president of the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, is our guest. Okay, let's talk infrastructure and transportation. We're seeing movement on the Senate side on the bipartisan bill, $1.2 trillion. Had Senator Cassidy on about it last Thursday. The senator's been front and center on this from the start. Why, as a resident of Louisiana, when it comes to this level of an infrastructure influx into the state, why should I not feel like Charlie Brown and the federal government is Lucy? I feel like every time there's a mention of a new bridge, the ball's going to be pulled away at the very last second, and I'm just going to go flying.
Well, I do like the analogy. And look, it's because, there's been a lot of time over the years where government has let folks down, and they've overpromised and underdelivered. So you're right to feel that way. I think we all kind of feel like Charlie Brown a little bit on this one. I think the bigger issue on this bill, though, is what does Speaker Pelosi do with whatever the Senate passes? Because it does look like in the next 48 hours, the Senate is going to pass the $1.2 trillion bill you mentioned. This is called the compromise bill that Senator Cassidy's worked so hard on. It's got money for roads and bridges and broadband and all the stuff that we've long talked about needing here. It's also got some passenger rail that could help some of that rail access between Baton Rouge and New Orleans we've often dreamed about. So there's a lot of good stuff in that bill.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is what Speaker Pelosi is saying is if that bill is passed by the Senate, she won't touch it unless the Senate also passes the $3.5 trillion bill. This is what's known in D.C. as the social infrastructure bill. And this bill has got a lot of problems. And so the key is, can the Senate pass the good bill and convince the House to kill the bad bill? And Senator Cassidy, we brought that up with him. Our board asked him that question. He felt like there was a path to do that, that a lot of moderate Democrats in the Senate were telling him and in the House that they wanted to vote for the good bill and not be for the other bill. And so if that trend continues, I think that's a really good dynamic for Louisiana. But truly, the game is going to begin in about 48 hours. When the Senate passes the quote-unquote good bill, and do they, plus the moderate Democrats in the House, have the ability and the game plan to stop the bad bill from being tacked onto it? And that's going to be the high-stakes poker over the next week or so in D.C.
Now, the way this was pitched was these two bills are separate, but the way you phrased this is very interesting, Stephen, that Nancy Pelosi won't move on the first bill until the second bill is clear to the Senate. So senators will vote separately on these bills, but in order for the first one, the good one, to make its way through the House side, the bad one has to already be in the House?
That's what Pelosi is saying right now. And it's one thing for someone to say it. The question is, does she have the votes to back it up? And that is the $1 million, or I guess you could call it the $1 trillion question in D.C. right now.
$3.5 trillion.
What Senator Cassidy reports he is hearing from some of the moderate Democrats is that, look, if they can vote for the good bill first, they have no reason to vote for the other bill because they've already delivered for their folks back home what they promised. Why take the nasty vote if you can already get the good vote out? And so that's what he is hearing. If that holds true, then that is a good way that they could block Speaker Pelosi's game plan, that moderate Democrats could oppose that type of, tackle-on approach she's trying to take, and she wouldn't have anywhere to go. But it's just a game of poker up there, and you don't know who's bluffing and who's telling the truth. And the $1 trillion good bill that would bring roads and bridges and rail here, man, that would be a great boost to Louisiana's infrastructure. But if you add that other bill on top of it, man, the social infrastructure bill, so it's called, would add major spending, major mandates. It would be really problematic, not just for the state, but for the country at large. And that has to be stopped at all costs. And it is definitely going to be who can work the moderate Democrats on the House side especially the best over the next week or so. That's going to be the key to figure out whether this ends up being success or failure.
Just that scenario plays very scarily, because anybody with a history of Washington, D.C., or how things work on Capitol Hill knows that we're either going to lose one or get both, or that would be the hunch right off the bat. Not knowing if we have the votes, though, is such an unknown. That being said, though, it's also going to cause a ton of inflation, the quote-unquote social
Correct.
infrastructure bill. And that inflation at a time where we're seeing an uptick on unemployment, inflation at a time where we don't know where future variants of COVID are going to go. I mean, is there no standing up to say, hey, let's hang on to this $3.5 trillion to bail us out again next year?
And look, let's be clear, Brian. The deficit spending that has been allowed and actually embraced over the last 2 years during this pandemic approach, look, our grandkids are definitely going to be paying this back for years, and that is a huge, huge problem. So even if this $3.5 trillion bill dies, which hopefully it does, you still got trillions of deficit spending that's been embraced and allowed by both parties up there over the last 2 years. So let's be clear, that's already in fact. And yes, you're right, we've got to get a control on that, because at some point that game runs out. At some point, the lenders in China say, hey, we want our money back. We want it now. And that's when the music stops. We're not going to know how many chairs are left available for the American economy. And so that is a huge, huge issue. But going back to the $1 trillion bill, that's investing in roads and bridges and resources here all across the country. That is an economic net positive because of the jobs that be created here. So we're all in for that approach. But we're also all in for doing whatever it takes to stop that $3.5 trillion bill, because if that thing or any version of it gets tacked on, you really quickly start to have a lot more negative than positive with that approach. And so we just hope that negotiators can find a way to block what Pelosi's trying to do. And if they can't, we hope they find a way to take a timeout, go home for recess, and try to come back maybe in the fall with a more streamlined approach that can actually be a fully paid for version.
We've got about 60 seconds left with Stephen Wagasback, president of LABI. Stephen, it's time to start to set the table for redistricting. What are we going to start seeing in the near future?
Man, this week is a big week for that. The U.S. Census is supposed to release their numbers to the states, and this will be the first time that our lead negotiators in the legislature and the administration are going to have the information they have to get to work drawing these lines. That special session should be early next year, maybe February or so. And the numbers they're going to get this week is how they're going to do it. That is going to decide where your congressional lines are, your legislative, judicial, et cetera. And so stay tuned, because when those numbers come in, there's some important people to remember. John Stefanski, who chairs the House Committee on the House side, and Sharon Hewitt, who chairs the Senate Committee on the Senate side, and then obviously Clay Scheck-Snyder and Paige Cortez, the legislative leadership. Those four especially, when they get those numbers this week, expect them to pull the shades down, pull out their calculators, and start working the numbers, because that's going to drive what our legislature looks like for the next decade.
Well, then we'll have a lot to talk about next week as well. He is Stephen Wagasback, president of LABI. We always appreciate the time, man.
Have a great one. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. We'll talk to you soon. Coming up on 750 at Talk 107.3 FM, time for Your Money Now. Hey, let me hit Baton Rouge Mattress at 7:52 before we go to the...
And then Matern's next segment.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it does that sometimes. Just do that. Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's right. integrated there, it's going to pop up as two. Like exported, it's going to be like, you can just label it like Stephen Wagner's bag, today's date, and it's going to pop up as two separate ones. But it's
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel teaches you conversation.
you can just do Latin.
Actually, 14 languages in less than 2 hours, like travel, business, relationships, and more. You'll learn what matters most to you. Babbel, language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to babbel.com/babbel.
What's that doing? Oh.
Yeah, so like it's the same interview, but it's just like,
And actually, without my coffee down the drain. I was told that dumping coffee in the garbage can is rude. Oh, is this up? Oh. 752 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. This is a big back to school week. Have you gotten all your back to school shopping done? Maybe, maybe not. You might be thinking about your school supplies for in classroom, but what about sending the kids off to college? They're moving into that new apartment. Do they have their mattress yet? Right now at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, you can get a 10-inch queen hybrid mattress for $699. By the way, 12 months interest-free financing regardless of minimum purchase, 24 months interest-free financing if you purchase more than $1,500 worth. And oh, by the way, free delivery if you mention you heard about it on this show. 2 locations of the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet, 4065 Florida Boulevard, that's in Mid-City, or 18181 Jefferson Highway. That's the corner of Jefferson and Hoosier 2. Both locations have the same great deals. Both locations have the same great financing. Both locations offer free delivery if you mention you heard about it right here at the Baton Rouge Mattress Outlet. I finally did a 60 and not a 74 with them. The standard 74-second live read. That was cool. So that's what it's like to not ramble during that spot. Oh, man.
We got a good this day in history.
Don't we always?
Well, I mean, this one's, like, good. Like, honestly, like, Fridays was fun because I basically just goofed it because there were no good things that happened.
Friday was the best one we've had in a long time.
Yeah, because I just pulled the stupid ones because nothing actually good happened. These are, like, actually good.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see. I drank beer over the weekend. I need to not drink beer over the weekend. If I drink beer on the weekend, my weigh-in is always down to the wire as to whether or not I'm going to lose weight. I'm having trouble with managing the summertime and staying on and this is one of the reasons I'm glad school's back in, is it forces you back into a routine. But if I'm poolside, I can bring out a tumbler full of whiskey, but what happens when that tumbler is empty? You can't have glass at the pool, so the rest of the bottle's back home. Plus, before I start drinking, I like to think I'm all responsible and shit, and I'm like, I'm just going to have the one. No. No.
Okay, we got traffic and we coming in.
All right, Dan. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. All right, Dan. $7:56 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Thanks again to Stephen Wagasback. I'm looking forward to. I know this is going to sound so nerdy. I'm looking forward to talking redistricting in the near future. It sets the table for so much of what we'll talk about during the upcoming legislative sessions. It really formulates where the conversation's headed. So that'll be future segments with the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Coming up next hour, we're going to talk beef. Amelia Kent from the Louisiana Beef Industry Council is going to join us. We are also going to have a ton of audio from Governor John Bel Edwards' press conference from Friday. The governor held a press conference a couple days into the mask mandate to tell us things have not gotten better. We'll dive into that next hour. Right now, though, time for us to step outside of East Baton Rouge Parish. It's a segment we call The Outside In. Going to start off in Lafayette. One person was killed, another was injured in crossfire between a Lafayette police officer and possible suspects in a different crime. Lafayette Police Department responded to a shooting Sunday morning in the parking lot of the district at 4607 Johnston Street. State police said an officer approached a group believed to be involved in the shooting. He was met with gunfire by at least one person. The officer returned fire. Investigators said a woman sustained non-life-threatening gunshot wounds and a man died. The officer involved was not injured. State police is leading this ongoing investigation as requested by the Lafayette Police Department. Moving over to St. Martin Parish, an active arrest warrant has been issued for a mother of three after her children tested positive for meth. Illicit drugs is what the story says. We'll learn later on it was meth. St. Martinville police said Brittany DeTazier's three children, all under the age of 10, had their hair follicles tested, all pop positive for meth. They told KLFY the Child Protective Services was contacted. Those kids are now in protective custody. Brittany fled the scene before police arrived. Over to New Orleans, another downtown shooting early Sunday left 4 victims injured. NOPD said around 2 a.m. August 8th, someone opened fire on a crowd near 1100 Bourbon Street. 4 people were shot. None of the injuries were life-threatening. 3 of the victims suffered graze wounds. Just last week, 5 people were injured in a separate shooting on the corner of Bourbon and Orleans. So, this is back-to-back weeks with shootings in the quarter. That is The Outside In, presented by BRPT Lake. BRPT Lake. Check them out online at brptlake.com. We're going to get you to CBS News here at the top of the hour. After we get back from the news, Taylor has got This Day in History coming up next. All right. Oh my goodness, they're talking about a UN report on CBS News. I will never forget. There's I don't want to bash him by giving out his name. There was a host, he was a fill-in host when I was over at J-Bo many years ago. He was reading a news story about a UN report, and he kept calling it the unreport. And he thought he was hilarious because he was making the joke, like, what's that, the opposite of a report is an unreport? He legitimately had no idea. He was talking about it. His entire story was written in caps, so he had no idea. He was talking about a UN report. He's like, an unreport. Yeah. You can't unreport something after you've reported it. This is the same guy who when you look at a capital I and a lowercase L to spell ill, he kept calling him Kim Jong-2.
Oh no. You really hate to see that.
Kim Jong-2.
No, no, I couldn't if I. It's reported. You can't unreport it. Who is this? Somebody in Baton Rouge. Is Dr. O'Neill? Well, then you need to do a better job of selling your story. I've convinced people in my life. I got to go back and get that audio from Dr. Cantor about not being assholes to people. Meet them where they are. Stop trying to pound on somebody on Facebook to make them go get vaccinated. That's. Hey, Haggai, what's happening, dude? Welcome.
So Dave Chappelle and 2 other people did think they're funny. Dave Chappelle's the only funny one.
Jon Stewart was a very good stand-up comedian.
His show was there. The Daily Report sucks.
Daily Show. Oh, I wholeheartedly disagree. No, I'm going to pull age on you on this one here. Craig Kilborn was amazing. Right. You're too young. Back in my day, a guy from SportsCenter moved over to Comedy Central. Remember the movie Old School? The a-hole boyfriend who hits on the girl in the bathroom? That's Craig Kilborn. He used to host The Daily Show. Who's the current host? Noah somebody? Trevor Noah? Yeah. I don't think. Oh!
So change the logo to Medical Monday.
Make it work. 805 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, hour 3 of Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. Taylor Sharp producing, 2 hours down, 1 hour to go. We are nowhere near done yet. Governor John Bel Edwards met with the media on Friday, to give an update on where we are. At the time, it was 4 days into the mask mandate, and news had gotten worse, not better. No real surprise there. If we've learned anything over the last 18 months, it's that it takes 2 weeks for anything to set in. We'll get to that next segment. I will save my angst and anger for next segment. Also, still to come this hour, Amelia Kent from the Louisiana Beef Industry Council is going to join us at 8:35. We're going to get to this day in history in just a minute, but I do have to take 60 seconds to tell you about the folks over at Mathern's Market. We are a week into the mask mandate now. Don't want to wear your mask while you're going up and down grocery aisles? I've got the answer for you. That's the Mathern's app. Good at both locations, either downtown on 3rd Street or right across the street from Tiger Stadium, Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. The Mathern's app makes things easy for you. You could do your shopping literally before you leave work. Pull into the parking lot. They'll bring it out to you. Boom. You don't have to get in the mix. You don't have to put on the mask. They will take care of you with the Mathern's app. Oh, by the way, I mentioned that location, Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. Don't forget, as we approach back to school time, important to remember, that location is a full-service grocery store with a deli counter, a lunch counter, with a sushi bar, with a salad bar. They can take care of you from start to finish, and even though it's back to school time, they're not just for students, they're for everybody. But when it comes to knocking out your grocery shopping without having to put on a mask, the Mathern's app is here for you. Good at both locations, downtown on 3rd or Nicholson at Skip Burtman Drive. Download the Mathern's app today. All right, it is at this time in the show every day where Taylor takes us back in time for a segment we call This Day in History.
Marty, you've got to come back with me. Where?
A long, long time ago.
Who's coming with me? We have to go back, Kate. We have to go back.
Say, kids, what time is it?
It's time for
Disdain his.
What you got, dog?
Oh, man, we got a lot. We're
Really?
going back to the year 1483.
Ooh.
Opening of the Sistine Chapel in the Vatican.
That's a big day, man.
It is a big day. That's why I threw it in there.
The opening of the Sistine Chapel. I wonder how that worked. Did people pre-buy tickets online?
They did.
You had to pre-order them like a Disney film?
Face mask were required.
Yes, they were.
1831. The first U.S. steam engine train runs from Albany, New York to Schenectady, New York.
Schenectady.
Okay, that. 1944.
It's a heck of a run from Albany to Schenectady.
That's right.
You could have pushed it.
1944. Smokey the Bear debuts as the spokesperson for fire prevention for
Yes.
U.S. Forest Service.
I heard about that. That's a big day for forest fires.
1945. The U.S. drops the second bomb, Fat Man, on Nagasaki, Japan.
Didn't we have the story last week about them delivering the bombs?
No, yeah. Well, then Friday they dropped Hiroshima.
That's right. That's right. All right.
1969. The Manson family kills actress Sharon Tate and her 3 guests in her home.
One. Yeah, that one. I saw that one.
1971. Satchel Paige inducted into baseball's Hall of Fame.
I like that a lot.
1974. Richard Nixon resigns as President of the United States, and Vice President Gerald Ford swears oath of office to take his place as the 38th U.S. President.
This is a big day, man. There's a lot going on today.
1975. The first ever NFL game takes place in the Louisiana Superdome.
Final score?
Houston beats the Saints 13-7.
I had that one.
1979. English seaside resort in Brighton gets British's first ever nude beach.
You know, the world doesn't need everything.
Well, the seaside resort in Brighton.
Oh, it was bright, all right.
It was bright. That's
I
right.
mean, look, I'm Celtic. We're a pale people. We're damn near translucent, vampiric, if you will. We don't need to see more. No.
Well, the English beg to differ, sir.
No, yeah.
In 2016, U.S. swimmer Michael Phelps wins the 200-meter butterfly for his 20th Olympic gold medal.
Good for him.
What a stud.
Yeah.
Birthdays.
Yeah.
Whitney Houston, born on this day in 1963.
How did my list not have Whitney Houston? Okay.
One of my favorite actresses, Anna Kendrick, 36 years old.
You like some Anna Kendrick?
I like some Anna Kendrick, man.
Like Pitch Perfect Anna Kendrick or like Elsewhere?
All Anna Kendrick.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to
Yeah, no, totally.
This one's not a crush of mine. Michael Kors is 62 years old today.
Who?
Michael Kors. You ever heard of Michael Kors Designs?
Oh, like
I can
expensive
decide.
purses and whatnot? Okay.
Yeah, he is 62. Don't call me Deion Sanders, 54 years old today.
Why not call him
he,
Deion?
He wants to go by Coach Sanders. He
He
swears.
is Coach Sanders.
Well, somebody called him Deion. You don't remember? Somebody called him Deion in an interview.
Can we call him Prime Time?
Somebody called him Deion in an interview, and he goes, "You don't call Nick Saban Nick." I'm like, "Have you ever heard an interview with Nick Saban? Literally everyone calls him Nick." And he goes, "You treat me like Nick." I'm like, "You ain't got the skins on the wall for that one, bro.
He's
Got a ways to go. You're about,
you
you're
need a couple
7
rings.
national championships behind, man."
Get you a couple rings first, then we'll talk about it.
Actor Sam Elliott, 77 years old today.
All right.
Former LSU quarterback Jamarcus Russell, 36 years old.
How did I not have Jamarcus on my list?
And former Super Bowl champion and Grambling State alum Doug Williams, 66 years old.
Oh, there's Jamarcus.
Couple deaths.
Oh, wait, it's also Pat Mahomes' birthday.
Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, but not that Pat Mahomes.
Okay.
Former Twins and Mets pitcher, father of Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, Pat Mahomes.
All right.
His birthday. And Bob Cousy.
Now we know why I didn't include that one.
And Bob Cousy, if you're scoring at home. And where'd he go? Where did he go? Duke Riley.
Deaths. Barney Mack, this day in 2008.
Hoda Kotb's birthday.
Yeah, I saw that one. Barney Mack, 2008.
Aw.
Sharon Tate, 1969. Wonder how that happened. Hugo Boss died in 1948.
Wow.
Former, NFL Hall of Famer Frank Gifford, 2015.
Yep.
And Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, 2014.
Oh, wow.
Let's
Goodness
start-
gracious.
The one that started it all, man.
I know.
National days. International Coworker Day. It's National Book Lovers Day. It's Hand Holding Day. It's Rice Pudding Day.
That's stupid.
Love me some rice pudding.
No, you
man.
don't.
I've never had it.
No, you don't.
International Mathematicians Day.
All right.
And National Motorcycle Week.
Wait, it's Book Lovers Day and Mathematicians Day.
Yeah.
I mean, can we not separate the calendar out a little bit to put, your ELA classes on one day and your math classes on another? I mean, they got to share a day?
And it's a National Polka Day. It doesn't say polka dot. It says National Polka Day.
Yeah, like the dance,
So
the
I
music.
think, yeah. Dot Day's tomorrow.
Which, wait a minute, it's National Polka Day and it's August 9th. I would think National Polka Day would fall somewhere in October.
Well, it's today.
Because that's what you'd be dancing to at Oktoberfest. But Oktoberfest is canceled because it was headlined by Lizzo.
That's right. Gone. Freaking Lizzo. All right, that's your This Day in History.
Greatly appreciate it. We are coming up on our next break. When we come back, we are going to talk a little bit about what Governor John Bel Edwards had to say on Friday, press conference about COVID-19, just 4 days into the mask mandate. Where did we stand on Friday? Where are we now? We're talking about it next on Talk 107.3. You got the 8 cuts? Okay.
What did you use for Wagons Bag and Medical Manure? Hour 1 and 2.
Hoda Kotb doesn't make your cut? Kotb. Hoda Kotb.
Sounds like horticulture.
It does.
TV host horticulture.
You want me to call you when I get up?
What time do you get?
3:30.
Yeah, no, I'm good. That's
Okay.
That's like bedtime. Good Lord.
Area to avoid right now is going to be I-110. If you're traveling on I-110, you're going to want to use caution.
You're gonna wanna.
Wasn't it an Usher song? It was You Make Me Wanna was a Usher song. Are we still doing the staycation? All right. Yeah. I haven't gotten one in like 3 weeks. So I don't go to bed till like 11:30, 12. I get about 2.5, 3 hours sleep a night. Well, because I can't stop being a dad. So I can't go to sleep unless like at least 75% of the show is ready. So yes, I will help with bath time and story time and homework time and all that other good stuff. Put the kids to bed for about 9:30, and then put in a good hour and a half worth of work on the show before going to bed. And that puts me in bed at 11, which, yeah. 817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Hey, going to dive into audio from the governor here in just a second, but I do need to remind you, Talk 107.3 is giving you a chance to enjoy a true Louisiana staycation on us at either the Renaissance or Watermark hotels. Simply download the all-new Talk 107.3 mobile app and register. It's absolutely that easy. Each month, you can win a stay at the Watermark or the Renaissance. We draw 2 winners a month, one on this show, one on the Jay Ducote show. It's a staycation absolutely with the Watermark and Renaissance hotels, and of course, Talk 107.3, the new flavor of talk. So, let's walk you through the timeline. Last Monday, Governor John Bel Edwards issued a mask mandate that I believe didn't actually kick in until Wednesday. Last Friday, there was an hour and 20-minute long press conference, most of it fussing at us. And I don't blame him. I'm not blaming him here. I'm just setting this up for where the conversation's going. Most of it fussing at us because as of Friday, Louisiana remained the worst in the nation when it came to COVID cases.
Case growth per capita in Louisiana continues to be the highest in the country. We're the #1 state. That's not a distinction we want to have. And quite frankly, it's not even close. The #2 state is Florida. With a percent positivity on our test that continues to go up, meaning we have no reason to believe in our data that we've reached the peak or that we're coming down. Case growth continues, hospitalizations continue, and of course, deaths as well.
Couple questions here. If we can rewind back to the beginning of the pandemic, we will recall that the Montreal Convention Center in New Orleans was co-opted as a trio, like an emergency hospital, like kind of a makeshift, like a MASH unit, if you will. We are setting a record, or we spent the back half of the week last week setting a record every single day for the largest number of people in the hospital. Why have we not seen that yet? When the numbers were this bad in the first surge, the entire state got shut down. I'm curious as to why we're not there yet as well. The mask mandate, it's going to take a full week, probably 2, 10 days to 14 days, to determine if it's going to have any effect, if it's going to get any foothold on where we are with this surge, with the Delta variant. If a mask mandate goes into effect on Wednesday, getting a report card on Friday is not going to warrant, it's not going to produce any good news. But nonetheless, Governor John Bel Edwards reminded us on Friday that we're at a critical point in this fourth surge. Things worsened from Monday to Friday.
We have reached a critical point. Things, if anything, are worse today than they were on Monday. And I believe that that message has been received by the vast majority of the people of Louisiana. If you read any newspaper, watch or listen to just about any national news program, and you're going to see reports from Louisiana, interviews with doctors, nurses, or families who are suffering. So unfortunately, the eyes of the nation are largely on the state of Louisiana right now.
Yeah, they are. In fact, if you're watching us on YouTube, by the way, we're not on Facebook anymore. We've moved things over to YouTube. Join us there. If you're watching us on YouTube, you don't hear CBS News at the top of the hour. If you're listening on air and you heard CBS News at the top of the hour, we heard audio from right here in Baton Rouge. Story coming right from Baton Rouge, our own backyard. Last hour, we talked with Dr. Katie Taylor from Our Lady of the Lake about the effects of COVID-19. Well, really, why pregnant women should be getting the vaccine was the moral of that story. But we talked with her a little bit about what things are looking like at Our Lady of the Lake. We heard audio from Oxner earlier in the show. We heard a story about what's going on. Well, no, sorry, we haven't gotten to that one yet. We're going to talk about what's going on down in New Orleans as well, especially when it comes to children being affected by this Delta variant, being affected by this fourth surge. It's no longer the certain groups of people. It's no longer the elderly. It's no longer having stacked up comorbidities that's going to affect you with this. Everyone's in the game now. But yeah, it is a critical point, and it got worse throughout the week last week. And my guess, at least the first half of this week, it's probably going to continue on that trajectory. The governor talked about how this time around, the Delta variant, the fourth surge, there's a serious effect on children.
We have more children sick with COVID-19 than at any other time during the pandemic. And as we heard from hospital leaders on Monday, particularly Dr. Klein, the pediatrician from Children's Hospital in New Orleans, the Delta variant is affecting children at a greater rate than during the surges that we saw previously. For example, at Children's Hospital in New Orleans right now, I believe there are 13 children hospitalized with COVID-19, including 6 under the age of 2. 4 children are in intensive care, and they include a 3-month-old boy, a 23-month-old girl, an 8-year-old girl, and a 17-year-old boy. This disease is impacting children and adolescents across the full age spectrum. And of all of the patients in the hospital there over the age of 12, and they're eligible for vaccination, none have been vaccinated. On Monday, I told you that 2,079 children had tested positive per that day's report. Since that press conference, in just 4 days, another 3,939 children, these are people below the age of 18, have tested positive in Louisiana. That means this week, more than 6,000 children tested positive.
So one of the things I'm looking for hard numbers on is actual numbers of children that are in the hospital statewide. Because if you had 6,000 test positive over the course of a week, but you're hearing about a dozen here, a dozen there, region by region, what percentage of the children are actually going to the hospital? I got to dig through the dashboard, like every page of the dashboard, to find out if they're providing that information. I would imagine privacy concerns might get in the way of that. But I hesitate to say this as a parent, because as a parent, you take care of your kids regardless of the percentage chance. But when it comes to the pandemic as a whole, one of the things we've been looking at here is numbers. And you don't want to treat people like numbers, but it does play into it. For example, wearing the mask is not going to give you 100% protection from the Delta variant or any variant that's to come after this. But it will mitigate. Mitigate does not mean eliminate. It means you're getting a percentage of help in the game. Vaccinations, anywhere like 90% effective, which means you're 10% possibly ineffective. If you look at the hospitalization rate, 90% of those in the hospital are unvaccinated or not fully vaccinated. That means that 10% are. So this whole thing is a numbers, it's not a numbers game because it's not a game. But it is about evaluating all the percentages across the board to try and minimize as much as you can, minimize the possibility of contracting COVID-19, minimize the possibility of feeling the negative effects of COVID-19, and getting back on with our lives. But I would like to know, if you got 6,000 kids diagnosed with COVID-19 in a week, and 100 of them are in the hospital statewide, 200 of them are in the hospital statewide, are we talking about you have a 1% chance, a 2% chance of your kid ending up in the hospital? And that's important because we're going to have to gauge that a month from now once we've seen what happens once all the kids are back at school. Now, you might say, Brian, we've been down this road before. A lot of kids went back to school last year, and we didn't see spikes. That was before the Delta variant. And how many times have we been told in the last month by Dr. Katie O'Neill from Our Lady of the Lake, by Joseph Cantor from the Louisiana Department of Health, both of those on this show right here, and Governor John Bell Edwards at every press conference saying the Delta variant is a game changer. It is a different, if I can steal Dr. O'Neill's term, it's a different beast. So we don't know what's happening as kids go back to school today. We like to think we've got some level of comfort, but hard-pressed to really prove that. Governor John Bell Edwards, and this is the one that I've been waiting on. Governor John Bell Edwards told us on Friday that all the numbers are headed in the wrong direction.
All of the numbers that I'm about to give you are headed in the wrong direction. Percent positivity for a COVID test remains high and increasing. It's currently at 15.4%. The previous measure was 13.2%. Today, we are reporting 6,116 additional cases of COVID-19. We are also very sadly reporting 48 new deaths. That's more than 200 deaths this week that we've reported since Monday. We have 2,421 individuals in the hospital. That's a net increase of 71 since yesterday. We broke the all-time record that we've had in Louisiana on Tuesday, and each day since then we have gone up. And I can tell you the indications are we will go up by more than 100 more for tomorrow's report. 277 of those patients are on mechanical ventilators. That's an increase of 19 since yesterday.
If he's predicting 100 more by Saturday, one can only assume that that number would go up by the same on Sunday, and then by the time today's numbers come out, that 2,421 is probably going to be somewhere close to 2,700, which in and of itself is a scary thought, especially if you've got a reason to go to the hospital that has nothing to do with COVID. That being said, though, I'm hard-pressed to walk away from that with anything but he's fussing at us. Because the mask mandate went into effect, it was issued on Monday, went into effect on Wednesday. I don't know how many of us actually implemented our self-implementation on Tuesday. But nonetheless, it takes 2 weeks for anything to take hold when it comes to COVID. It takes 2 weeks worth of tracking to know where we're at with any kind of mask mandate. So if a mandate goes into effect on Wednesday, when you report on it on Friday, of course the numbers are going to be worse. And they're going to be worse today, and they're going to be worse tomorrow. By this time next Friday, we might start to see a plateau, maybe. But we're nowhere near the part where numbers are going to be better. So I got to ask the question, why pound on us on a negative that we knew was going to happen when you could encourage us with a positive and a way out of this? Cut 6, if you would, Taylor. A positive and a way out of this is it looks like the messaging about vaccinations is finally hitting home.
I do have hope. I mean, I know we're going to get through this. How quickly we get through it and how many people get sick between now and then, how many people die between now and then is largely going to be up to us. But I do have hope, and one of the reasons is over the last month, those individuals choosing to be vaccinated, receiving their first shot of the vaccine, is up by more than 300%. Now, we start off at a very low level of vaccination, and so we have a long way to go. But I am heartened by the trajectory that we are currently on, and we have to continue that for some time.
300% for the first shot over the last 2 weeks, which means you need 2 more weeks for the second shot to kick in for those that were at the very beginning of it, and 2 more weeks for the full vaccination to take effect within you. So let's talk right after Labor Day about where we're headed. And keep on the path of, yeah, congrats. We're seeing more and more people decide to get vaccinated. Let's continue that path. I tell you what, we're due up for CBS News when we come back. Let's get a little check-in from the Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Amelia Kent joins us next on Talk 107.3 FM, the new flavor of talk. What did the caller want?
I don't know. He said, "You take golf?" I was like, "Dude, we got to make 30 seconds."
By the way, yeah, I'm open to that.
He was on you.
No,
I
I'm.
was like, dude, after this soundbite's over, I was like, we got like 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But I'm seriously leaning towards bringing back a caller-driven segment, just one segment. The problem is it puts a world of hurt on you because once you do it once, people feel like it's all 3 hours worth of calls, and I'm not walking down that path ever. We've seen where that goes with radio, and it's lazy. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. I'm back on. Please tell me that wasn't on. Yeah, but how many people have already had COVID and are on the third floor of their hospital with a view of a pond? That's what. Until I had found out that, I'm not getting vaccinated. How many people ate chicken the day before they got COVID? Until I know that, I'm not getting vaccinated. Just say you're not getting vaccinated. Stop with the. And I'm not talking to you about, I'm saying in general. The emails that I'm getting lately are bonkers. I mean, regardless of the civil rights movement, I got to say, leaving Bogalusa is a good idea. Like, shout out to A.Z. Young for just leaving. This whole place smells like a paper mill. Let's go.
You said the Ron White skit about the paper factory?
No.
He said it had a terrible smell. He goes,
Yeah, he was about the paper mill, and he goes, when we were kids, we didn't know any better because we thought the whole world smelled like that. It was our first time on vacation. We had our heads sticking out the window. We were like, oh, my God, Dad, what's that wonderful smell? He goes, that's the sewage treatment facility. And he goes, yeah, it was good.
yeah, so when I got a little bit older, I decided to go over to the paper factory and ask him what was up. He goes, and I asked as nicely as I can, hey, listen here, you son of a bitch. Paper doesn't stink. Paper comes from trees. Trees don't stink. You're doing something to make it stink. Fucking quit.
It's the way they have to treat it when they make it. I don't know the ins and outs.
You're doing something to make it stink. Quit.
So they're growing up in Covington. Bogalusa was in our district when I was at St. Paul's. There's nothing worse than, well, the only thing worse than driving there for football was driving there for baseball because for some reason the wind was always blowing towards Covington. And you knew when you turned from Old Military Road onto whatever highway it is that leads into Bogalusa, it's like, oh, windows up. Because, I'm old, and old school buses, we put the windows down for the air conditioning. Oh, okay. Well, I haven't been on a school bus in a long time. I'd have some explaining to do if I did.
The ones we took for football games last year did not.
Yeah. Whether we come back, because typically we come back and make traffic. Right. But this week starts with traffic.
Tiffany says the good stuff is never on. That's because we're trying to keep F-bombs off the air, Tiffany. That is the long and the short of that one. And yay, we made it to YouTube. Absolutely.
Brian always says controversial things. We have to. I
do, and I have bad Seinfeld impressions apparently. Tiffany says, until my kid has cancer, worked me out pretty well for me getting Clint to take the shot. You know, yes, and most of this pandemic has been about how close it hits to home. And y'all's situation is one that not a whole lot. Oh, by the way, ran into my buddy that gave me all the download before y'all headed up to Memphis, and he was asking about CJ. So I was super happy to give the update that I was able to give, which his update was every bit as good. Anyway. Really?
It wasn't bad.
Well, Moscona produced Condon for like
It
4
wasn't
years.
bad. He did it Friday during the show. Because Terry had mentioned you for something. He goes, yeah, just get Haldane up here. He does traffic reports. Moscona's like, no, he doesn't. WBRZ sends him to him. He goes, well, they play on a show. It's like the same thing. He's like, no, it's not. He's not a traffic guy. And he's like, what about Condon? And then they started talking about, like, what Condon's traffic reports would be like.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How many times did he say son of a bugger? Yeah. Come on, Skull! It doesn't just get high, but like the end of the word disappears into the oblivion. How many times has he stood right there and be like, I thought I knew you, Haldane? Grab a water bottle. .838 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP, Hour 3 in Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Been looking forward to this since I got it on the books. Time to talk a little beef. Time to welcome in Amelia Kent from the Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Amelia, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I am doing very well. Glad to, well, let me start with the basics here. I love this partnership that we have with the Beef Industry Council because it means every Friday on Foodie Friday, I get like the best of what's coming our way when it comes to beef. And it like, I start my day off with a burger or steak or tacos every Friday, and I like could not be happier heading into the weekend. It's such a magical partnership.
Oh, I love it. Music to my ears.
Yeah, absolutely. And to my belly. All right. Let's start off with a little bit of the basics. For those that don't know about the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, what is it y'all do?
So the Louisiana Beef Industry Council collects and manages the beef checkoff, both at the state level, and then we also remit to the National Checkoff Board. So it's run by Louisiana cattle producers. So, I mean, we've got representation, boots on the ground from all over the state, and we convene at least quarterly to strategize ways to promote beef.
What is the beef checkoff?
The beef checkoff is actually a national program that's been in place for over 35 years. Mm-hmm. It is a national law dictating that for every head of bovine sold, so it doesn't matter if it's a beef cow or a dairy cow, there are a few exceptions allowed, but for every head sold, $1 per animal per transaction is remitted to the checkoff for the purpose of promotion and research of red meat.
And when it comes to that research, things have really moved a lot in recent years and finding out just the benefits that beef provides. What do folks not know about beef? That, like, the way I talk about it on the show is food is fuel. And with beef, you're getting a ton of different ingredients in that fuel that can help you at any stage of life. So what are a few of the things that folks don't really know about beef that they should?
Well, I think one of the big hidden secrets or hidden values is how valuable of a protein source, and a lean protein at that, beef is. It's packed with vitamins and nutrients, omegas, but in terms of fueling your day, protein is at the center of that fuel, and beef is an excellent great tasting source of lean protein.
Beef kind of got, well, red meat in general kind of got a bad rap, a number of years ago. It's been quite the process to work your way out of that, but it's there. Like, I think we're back to a place where we realize the benefits outweigh the flavor outweighs everything, but the benefits outweigh everything as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's still the saying, everything in moderation.
Sure.
So too much of a good thing, I frankly, I think it's kind of hard to think that there's too much steak or too much burger. But from a dietary standpoint, and I am no means a dietitian, so face value, but red meat is an excellent source of those proteins and vitamins and nutrients, and of course everything in moderation. So, I mean, I'm going through some portion sizes. Well, 3 ounces and 5 ounces. Well, those are pretty moderate portions when it comes to beef. But if you belly up for a 24-ounce porterhouse, well, it is going to be packed with calories, right?
Right. Yeah. We don't. When we mentioned was the movie The Great Outdoors with the old 96er.
Right.
I don't think any of us would be recommending that. Although it looked delicious. Hey, let's shift gears a little bit. I know we've talked about the nutrition here, but I want to talk about business because y'all have had to go through a lot of the same challenges or similar challenges as every other industry throughout COVID. Where are we at in the beef industry right now in Louisiana amidst the pandemic?
Well, the important thing to remember is farmers and ranchers are still farming. That hasn't stopped. People often ask me, how has my daily routine changed over the past year and a half? And it hasn't all that much. I mean, I might go through a drive-through at the bank instead of going in the lobby, but my daily chores are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. From a packing, a meat processing standpoint, I think we've worked through a lot of the staffing challenges and chain slowdowns at the slaughterhouse level. But locally speaking, local slaughterhouses, they're still backed out several months. I literally dropped off steers last night to our little custom slaughterhouse in Kentwood, and that's a hard appointment to get. Still, when usually a couple of weeks out, I can get whatever date I want. In this particular date today, I had to make that appointment 2 months ago, and it was still taking what I could get. So we're still working through some supply chain challenges, but nothing super specific to the beef industry, just more of the normal lag. We're hearing a lot amongst multiple industries, a lot of rhetoric about transportation challenges and not having enough drivers on the road. So I think especially on the meat side of things, once the product is in meat form and going to the grocery stores, that may be a little bit of a challenge grocery stores and retailers are experiencing. But for the most part, boots on the ground, our farmers and ranchers are finding a little bit more of our normal rhythm within the beef markets.
So the supply side challenges, the bringing the beef to market, the challenges there, drivers aside, but a lot of this stems from the original shutdown when everyone who was quote unquote non-essential didn't go to work and factories were shut down, slaughterhouses were shut down. Are we still digging ourselves out of that? And how has it affected inventory before bringing them there? I mean, this has got to affect cost to feed and just keeping the cattle for a longer period of time.
Slaughterhouses, the workers at the slaughterhouses were deemed essential, so they kept going until they needed to shut down for health and safety precautions. And there was a period of a couple of weeks about a year ago when we started experiencing some plant shutdowns and slowdowns. We're already pretty heavy on a beef inventory or supply side relative to harvest capacity. So when we experienced those shutdowns, it created a backlog. We have worked through all of that backlog of inventory at this point. Now, we're still tight on supply relative to slaughter capacity, but any sort of direct COVID correlation has been addressed at least several months ago. So the backlog that was created has been worked through.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good to know. Remember when you said it was taking an appointment that would normally take a couple weeks is looking at 2 months advance. That it makes it sound like there's room for more on the slaughter side to come into business.
So that particular example of being 2 months out, that was a scheduling challenge more than anything. So when I talk about the packing plants and slaughterhouses at the national level, they've worked through their backlog. The plant I deal with locally, I think he has a capacity of, I think, 10 head a day, something to that effect.
Okay.
And his schedule, I last time I harvested with him was in May of 21, and I quite literally made that appointment in August of 20. Whereas normally for that May appointment, I'll call in March and get whatever day I want. So our local guys are still working through a complete overrun on their schedule, but they also are managing their capacity. They know what their volumes are that they can take on any given day.
We've got Amelia Kent from the Louisiana Beef Industry Council for just another minute before, it sounds like life is calling in the background. Just one more. Are we going to see, from a consumer side, have we seen changes in patterns from what people want when it comes to beef? I mean, is there an increase right now because of our lifestyles have changed?
Absolutely, yes. We're seeing an increase in beef consumption at home. It makes complete sense. People are just now are starting to get back into dining out,
right,
and traveling more. So, early on in the pandemic, the retail and hospitality sector just shut down completely, and people are cooking more at home. People are learning how to cook better and a broader spectrum of recipes at home, myself included. And beef wins in flavor. I'm completely biased in saying that, but there are all kinds of data points to support beef's super flavor. And I think historically people have been a little bit scared off of beef in the meat case just because they don't know how to cook beef. I think the past 15 plus months have gotten over that challenge.
Absolutely. And we do it every Foodie Friday as well, with different restaurants from around town coming in here to give us step-by-step instructions on how they prepare their beef and how we can enjoy it at home. And in the meanwhile, I know you're going to get back to it. Amelia Kent, thank you so much for the time this morning.
Oh, thank you, Brian. Have a great day.
You too.
Always a pleasure.
Always, yes. We'll talk to you very soon. From the Louisiana Beef Industry Council, the website is beefitswhatsfordinner.com. I'm on the website right now. You get recipes, nutrition tips, trade your tips, hacks, everything. From Memorial Day to Labor Day is considered the grilling season, right? It's summertime. You're outdoors. Throw some burgers on the grill. That's cool. Here in Louisiana, though, Labor Day is the beginning of the football season, right? Which means grilling season turns into tailgate season, which is really just an extension of grilling season. I just thought about it. And at LSU, how often do we like to cook our opponent? Bring it on, Texas. Yeah. Another excuse to cook beef for another weekend. Boom. I'm all about it. I appreciate Amelia's time this morning, and we are not done just yet. We got one more segment to go here on Talk 107.3 FM. Probably going to get back into one more soundbite from the governor's press conference from last Friday, because I'd like to see us turn the tide a little bit and get this fourth surge, if not behind us, at least plateaued. We're going to dive back into that next. Right now, though, we're coming up on Your Money Now. Going to check Your Money Now. We're going to check traffic one more time as well. Then we'll come back and close it out. One more segment to go on Talk 107.3 FM. Oh, I hated keeping her on the phone with a little baby crying in the background. She, Bo! Are we done?
Felt like it. You hit 5 today.
Yeah. Yeah, and
BRP team, maybe complete.
Ghost Slim's the one I'm missing.
BR matches goes. Yeah, but isn't that Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we hit all once for today.
Claim your seat today. Visit enrollbr.org to get started. That's enrollbr.org. Listen to the ACO Automotive Hour Saturdays at 10 a.m. featuring ACO Automotive's Will Alton to answer your questions about cars. It's on demand too at talk1073.com and live every Saturday 10 a.m. on Talk 1073 FM. Hey, it's Woody Rush. Now more than ever.
2 of my 3 are off to school already. Third one starts back on Thursday. Mercy, and SJA.
To Walker. Dude, that's sick. You guys are beneath me. Man. That's just not true. You guys are You guys are beneath me. I went to Walker.
She went to Walker. Yeah. Yeah. It's that things haven't changed much. We'll beat y'all every once in a while. Actually, we kind of beat the crap out of y'all last year on all levels.
My 8th grade year, we beat y'all in the championship 35-0.
Okay.
So that's all that matters to me.
I've had the worst luck against St. George in basketball. Like twice a year, every single game, we'll be up. This is middle school girls basketball, so you're talking like a barn burner of like 16-9 is your final. We're up like 7-0 going into the fourth quarter. It's just like boom, boom, like out of nowhere, shit starts hitting like hitting lottery numbers. Yeah, the last time we played was we're up 7-0 going into the fourth, and we lose 16-9. And I'm like, what the hell just happened?
16-2 run.
Right, and I'm like, yelling at 7th grade girls to get their head out of their ass. Get your head out of your ass! Sorry, Father. I thought I've gotten teed up once. I did not get ejected from middle school game. I got teed up once, and it was for the most bullshit call. Well, we were in where were we? We're on the other side of the river. No, down this way. Oh shoot, it wasn't Ascension. Was it Ascension Catholic? We might have been at Ascension Catholic. And it was me and Rocco were coaching together. This was 7th grade year, so it wasn't last year at Sportsplex. We do what?
That's funny. I didn't realize you were the coach. I thought you were just the parent.
Oh, no. Me and Rocco from Rocco's Po' Boys and former U.S. Attorney Brandon Freeman, we all coached together. And it was like you were talking about this trio that you would not expect to see. Oh, my God, it was great. And we were super positive the whole way through. Anytime we were stirring up to do, it was on purpose just to have a good time. Well, Rocco got teed up because this ref was terrible, and you're going to get terrible refs. I mean, that's the way it is. Exactly. We don't normally get in the way of it, but there was one girl who was like actively hurting other girls. No. And
She was Draymond people out there.
she was. So he gets teed up, so the refs obviously got his eye on us the rest of the game. Well, ball goes out of bounds, and he gives the ball to them, and I'm just standing there, and I'm like, yeah, it's about right. That's all I said. Yeah, it's about right. Boop. Damn it. I should have. I did not deserve it. 8:56, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. One segment to go here on Mornings with Brian Haldane before we hand off to the Fox News Rundown and then the Brian Kilmeade Show after that. Got to dive back in to one more thing from the governor's press conference. If you were listening earlier, Governor spent a lot of time Friday telling us how bad things are. If you don't know how bad things are right now, I don't know that you're paying attention or you will pay attention. But we got an hour and 20 minutes worth of how bad things are, hammering the message home, just bludgeoning us with, it's bad, we're the worst in the nation, we're the worst in the nation. And it's not even close. And we get it. But the mask mandate went into effect last week. we haven't had enough time to right the ship since then. Now, hopefully, we are righting the ship since then. And a big part of this, it's going to be cut 8, Taylor, a big part of this is getting more and more people vaccinated. And one of the things the governor mentioned, amidst fussing, one of the things the governor mentioned is that we've seen a 300% uptick in the last 2 weeks of vaccinations. A lot of those, like more than 80% of them, first-time shots, which means a lot of folks are starting to see the light and change their minds when it comes to the vaccinations.
Most of the people being vaccinated today have changed their mind. At some point in the recent past, they had decided to continue to wait, or maybe they had decided they weren't going to get vaccinated at all. And I welcome that. I would encourage everyone to understand that today is a new day, and no matter what you've said or no matter what you had decided before, in light of all the medical evidence of the safety and efficacy of the vaccines, in light of all of the evidence is just how serious and transmissible and deadly the Delta variant is, it is time to reevaluate and change your mind and talk to a medical professional if that's required in order to get all of your questions answered so that you can be comfortable making that decision.
Taylor, how long was that soundbite?
50 seconds.
50 seconds. Out of an hour and 20. I don't know about you, but I want more of that. If I'm halfway through a marathon, I don't want somebody telling me that I haven't completed the other half yet. I want somebody telling me I got this. If I'm 3/4 of the way through a marathon, I don't want somebody telling me how much I have left. I want somebody telling me, I got this. You got this. 50 seconds worth of you got this could have been a heck of a lot more. This short into the mask mandate, you cannot evaluate how effective this round of the mask mandate's been. But what you can do is continue to encourage those who are riding the ship. We got to get out of here. We got CBS News at the top of the hour. We've got the Fox News rundown back after this. Of course, new numbers will be up by noon. We'll give you the full breakdown of them on tomorrow's show. Also on tomorrow's show, we'll catch up as we do every single Tuesday with the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. I'm sure there will be no shortage of COVID news from them as well. And I'm working on a lot of things I just don't want to jinx yet, so that's going to be a short and tease. Here comes CBS. I almost said Facebook. YouTube! Thank you for joining me. We greatly appreciate it. Let all your friends know we've moved over. You've seen the interaction today. Comments are more than welcome throughout. And let's dive back in tomorrow. Share it on your Facebook page. Get some more folks involved. We'd love to have you. Let's keep this thing growing.